I mean, join.
Oh, sorry. Everything's ready.
Okay, very good. I would like to reconvene the public meeting of the Lodi Unified School District Board of Education for December 12th, 2017. Let the roll call show that all 7 board members are present. If you would please stand and join me in pledge of allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. At this time, I'll report on actions taken during closed session. In personnel matters, Darrell Talkin motioned, Joe Navas seconded. The board approved the appointment of April Juarez as Director 3 Controller in the Accounting Department. Effective date to be determined by the following vote: 7 ayes, 0 noes. And that's it. Okay. Next up is recognitions. Yeah.
Don't get out, just get on over here. You know, I did hear that you had actually talked about doing away with this part of the agenda.
Yes, I did.
Now, obviously, that didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work
No.
out.
But it brought to mind a story about my dad. He was a car painter. He was a really, really good car painter. And I used to go down to the shop and visit him. And you'd see him then, he'd be back and he'd be spraying. And then he'd stop and he'd step back and he'd take a look. And that's what I want you to do tonight. Stop what you're doing. Step back just a second. Let us all admire the things that you've done. You know, it was 7 years ago on Thursday. On Thursday that we swore in 4 new board members. And then Ms. Castle was the 5th one signed in that day for her first term, or second term, excuse me. And we started on a path to change the direction of this district. And you have been absolutely instrumental, the leader of that change. You've taken and focused the district back on the classroom and the needs of that classroom. Well, you didn't let us forget that, did you? No. And you also focused on the success of students, but the success of all students, no matter what their education level was, no matter what grade they were, you focused on that. And I got to tell you that no matter what, during this whole time, your focus has always been on the students and what's best for the students. You know, I started thinking about this 7 years, right? We've had over 160 board meetings together during this time.
Yes.
We've voted on over 2,000 things together. Now, 99% of the time, you and I voted together on things. But you know, during that 1% when you were wrong,
Yeah.
I knew that you were doing what you felt was absolutely best for our students. And I greatly, greatly appreciate that. So, on behalf of my colleagues in the Board of Education, on behalf of Lodi Unified employees, the Lodi Unified family of over 4,000 people, on behalf of the voters and the residents of this district, most importantly, on behalf of our kids, I want to thank you for all that you've done. And I think this, and I do remember to pick up the base of it too, and you be careful because these two, yeah, I was warned about that just before I came up. I love this recognition that we're giving Mr. Everly because you can see it, it's children reaching for the stars, and by God, that's what you've been all about. So, Ron, thank you for not only this last year as president, but for the 7 years that you've been on the board. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you to the board members and the administration for your kindness and support. Yeah, we agree a lot. There are times when we do have differences of opinion, but that's okay. That's actually the strength of an agency, when someone can voice opposition to maybe what the flow is. So it's really good. And I do appreciate your words, George, about students, because this whole organization is together for one purpose, and that is the kids, period. The kids are what's important. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Yes, I know. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for so much for that. And the first order of business is the board reorganization. It is an annual thing that we have what they call the organizational meeting. And at that time, what we do is we kind of restructure the officers of our board. So at this time, I would accept nominations for the 2018 president of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve George Neely as our next chairman of our board.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? None appearing. I'll do a roll call vote of the board. Board members, all in favor of George Neely for board president, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, George, you're it. Very good. Congratulations.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I nominate Gary Knackstad for the vice president of the board.
All right, we are at that part of the agenda, vice president of the board. I have a nomination for Gary Knackstad. Do I hear a second? I will second that. Are there any other nominations for vice president?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to nominate Joe Nava for Vice President of the Board.
Okay. And get this down. Okay, do I hear a second for the Joe Nava nomination?
Second.
All right, very good. The first nomination was for Gary Knackstad, so we'll take that one in order. All in favor of Gary Knackstad as Vice President of the Board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. Mr. Freitas?
Yay.
Mr. Knackstad?
Aye.
Mr. Neely?
I'm going to do more than just say aye or nay. I want to say that there are two great choices up there. And I will.
Okay. And I also say aye.
Aye.
Joe?
Nay.
And Bob?
No.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes for Gary Knackstad. Dr. Washer, do I go any further?
He has been approved, he has been voted in as vice president.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. We now have the 2018 clerk of the board. Do I have any nominations?
Mr. Harris,
Yes, Mr. Neely.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Nava.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Mr. Nava as clerk of the board for 2018. Roll call vote, Mr. Freitas.
Aye.
Haley, Heberly, aye.
Aye.
And Nava, aye. And
Aye.
Castle, aye. Okay, very good. Alrighty, at this time in the agenda, then what we do is we have a brief recess so we can scramble. we will be back. Just a quick recess.
Now, can we get the computers to match us?
No, you're all gonna log out. Folks that are moving should log out.
That's fine, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll bring this meeting back to order. Before I move on, I want to say that I have contact with a lot of board members. CCS, the California School Board Association, I'm delegate.
Can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Most of the time, people are happy when they can't hear me. Good now in the back?
Yes.
Okay. I meet a lot of board members as I travel around the California School Board Association, and I listen to them about their boards and their districts and all the problems that they have. And whenever I do, I'm really happy to think about what goes on here. In some boards, they have the same president year after year after year after year. And here at Lodi Unified, sitting on this board right now, we have 5 past presidents sitting up here. Ms. Castle, Mr. Nava, Mr. Freitas, Mr. Heberly, who you just saw, and myself. This board works together to find solutions. Sometimes our solutions have to be unpopular because of a little funding issue that the state has put us in. We have a lot of new people here tonight, so I'm going to tell you this. That this year, the governor thinks that he may be able to get our funding gap closed. And we will be then what he calls fully funded, which means that our funding will be equal to the funding that we were getting in 2008, adjusted for inflation. This monumental move will place us 50th in the nation in per student funding. Only one district, only one state behind us. We've got a lot of work to do on that. And we're going to be coming to all of you to help us out with that because there's a vote coming. So, all right, we'd like to make or I'd like to make a slight change to the agenda. We have a lot. How many people are here for the report on Houston School? I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to move that if I can get a motion and a second and a vote up here.
Chairman, I already moved that we move that report up to now.
That's great.
And
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
All right, and we'll just have to do this by voice. You got that, record that. All in favor of, what's that?
Roll call, please.
She said roll call.
Roll call on the vote for that? All right, very well. You gotta speak up, I don't hear so well.
Roll call, please.
Got it. All right, so we'll do a roll call vote on that. We'll start with Mr. Freitas. Aye.
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 Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous approval. We're gonna move that up in the agenda. So if you will look to that part on the report, I believe it's a report item.
It is a report.
Now, I want to explain to everybody what a report item is. Report item has not been voted on or moved by the board. There have been no decisions made on this at all. We're simply starting to gather information. Now, I know that some people have said the decisions have been made. I want to tell you that they were misinformed, and that's not the case. So that's the purpose of tonight, is we're going to look at this. Can you hold your
I can.
questions just a moment? We will have time after the report for everybody that wants to speak to come up to the mic and speak. And you'll have a couple of minutes to go ahead and state your case.
I know we met last board meeting.
Yeah, I remember that right outside, yeah. So, I'm glad to see you back. All right. So with that,
Just one more thing, if I may, Mr. President. There will not be any action taken tonight. It's a report item only, so I want to clarify that. You are not taking
I thought I
action.
said that.
You said there has been no action taken, but there will not be
Oh, there will
tonight.
not be any action taken tonight as well. It is a report item only, okay? Now, does that mean you came out here for nothing? Absolutely not, because you're part of this report. And like I said, when we're done with this formal part of the report, you'll have your chance to speak up. Ms. Lankin?
Okay, Lodi Ortega Lampkin, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education. Congratulations, Mr. President Neely, and thank you, board members and superintendent, for allowing me the opportunity to present to you tonight an information report. And before I start, I'd like to just repeat a little more about what Mr. Neely said. This is an information report only. It is not an implementation plan. So this is just initial information of a of some concerns that need our attention, and some information and some possible direction on whether the board would like for us to pursue this further. For additional information at that point, if that's what the direction of the board is, then we would include more information and input from parents and staff on what that implementation plan could look like. But at this point, we're not ready to present that to you tonight. We're only here as initial information for the board to consider whether we need to go deeper. So one of the concerns that we've had for many years in Lodi is the declining enrollment at Houston. And this report, this chart here is from CBEDS. And CBEDS is, for the members in the audience, is the California Basic Education Data System. And there's a report, information that's gathered every year by the state to tracking enrollment in schools. So this is a 20-year report of Houston enrollment. And as you can see, in 2011, when Lockford became a K-8 school, it impacted enrollment at Houston, because we had 2 K-8 schools now in that area. And so since then, enrollment has declined. There's been a couple little bumps here and there, but the enrollment is declining, and it's been a concern and something that we've been has been discussed a lot throughout the years. The other information I'd like to share with you is that 3 years ago, the district conducted a facility capacity study. This was a consultant that was hired by the facilities department, and in preparation for the facilities master plan, looking at what the capacity were at all our schools. This is the data that was gathered for Houston. The capacity was determined at 496. At that time, when that study was done, classrooms that were rooms that were used, for example, for PE, storage rooms, or music rooms, or rooms designated for office space, were not considered in those numbers. So it says 496 or other rooms that could be used for a classroom if need be. But at that time, that was not the direction of that study. The CBEDS report last year was 190. Current enrollment as of November was 203 students. And currently we are at 293 at below capacity based on the study that was done 3 years ago. This is Houston's current enrollment. Now the enrollment numbers are constantly moving from one day to the next depending on when the data was pulled out. As you can see, there's some combination classrooms. Combination classrooms have always been in place at Houston and will continue to be. This particular year, we have a combination in 2-3 and a combination in 5-6. And we have a total of 8 teachers, classroom teachers. Some challenges that we face with low enrollment at Houston is limited resources. When you have a small school, low enrollment, you get less funding per student, so less Title I money, your allocations are less. So because they're less, but the need is still the same, the district has to provide additional resources to help the school function as best as possible. Another challenge is, and I mentioned earlier, is combination classes across K-6. That's always going to be a concern and an issue and a challenge for the Houston staff and a reality for the Houston students. In some cases, you may have students who would be in combination classes their whole K-6 experience, depending on where that combination class lands every year. But there are cases where kids can be in combination classrooms the whole time or the majority of their K-6 experience. The other challenge at a K-8 school is that there's limitations in providing a full middle school program. Limitations in providing, I can't think of the word right, electives, involvement in sports, extracurricular activities. Also teachers are multiple subject teachers. So that's another challenge in regarding the teachers have to teach all subjects, so we have to have multiple subject teachers to make it work. Limitations also in grade level collaboration and planning. There's teachers do not have another grade level partner to plan lessons and collaborate. There's lots of cross grade level collaboration, but there's not the specific grade level collaboration, and that's what also can become a challenge. Also, staff take on multiple tasks because you have less folks to work with, so then people have to take on more responsibility. And I know at Houston we have very committed staff, but they are required to do more, are expected to, or they volunteer many times to take on more tasks than they would at other schools. There's also at Houston, we also have additional facility modifications. That does not go away because it's a small enrollment. You still have to address the entire facility, and that's also a challenge regarding funding. And we have a half-time principal. So we have a principal who's driving from one area to the next, trying to manage and support two schools with two different cultures and different needs, dealing with discipline back and forth. And so that is a challenge to have one administrator, so there's not someone there full-time. So tonight we're here to have to consider some options on addressing the enrollment at Houston. The consideration is for K-6 students to attend Victor School and 7th, 8th to attend Lockford School. The other consideration is to move Cerna Charter School program to Houston. And if that was to do the case, we would develop a late enrollment process so that Houston students who wish to stay at Houston and are interested in dual immersion could benefit and stay at Houston school. The benefits of this consideration would be that Houston facility will remain open and be used more effectively as a facility. Students would be able to consider a dual immersion program and remain at Houston. We would have students be in fewer combination classes. Now, we wouldn't get rid of combination classes. Those still could exist at Victor, but the kids would be less likely to be in so many combination classes year after year. So you limit the students' impact on their enrollment in a combination class. Measure U and other facility funds could be saved if the current Cerna facility is not used as a K-8. And the funds saved from the Cerna facility could be used for the board to consider for other board priorities from Measure U. Some issues that we would need to address, and these are just some, I know there's many more that you'll be hearing tonight, are transportation and routing changes. That would have to be something that would be to be addressed. Staff transfers, attendance area adjustments, and we would need to have many parent community forums and to hear their input and the impact that makes to their families with a possible change. So is this even feasible to even be thinking of this consideration? So here is the capacity study that was done again 3 years ago. For Lockford, that study showed that there's a capacity of 636 kids. Right, currently Lockford is housing 509 students and they're below capacity. There's room for 127 students. At Victor, there's 216, that was the result of available space. Seat beds is 164. Current enrollment is about 171 with a below capacity of 45. Now, I want to remind you, like I said earlier, that the 216 amount did not take into consideration current classrooms that are being used for PE storage or for other uses. So at Victor, there are 2 other classrooms that we could use for a classroom, so that would increase the capacity to another 60 students or so. So why Cerna? So Cerna has the opposite challenge. Cerna has been increasing in enrollment, and here's the 20-year growth. They're consistently growing, and so they're having the opposite challenge at Cerna. The facility, next slide. We also did a facility capacity study. Okay. And the capacity is at 375, and the currently have space for 11 students in different grade levels. Current enrollment at Cerna is at 364, and there are 18 teachers. There are no combination classrooms at this time. Some of the challenges currently issues at Cerna is that there is a high interest in dual immersion program, and there is a huge waiting list due to that interest. It is a school of choice, so any student from the district can attend. Is not based on boundary lines. The facility is not designed for a K-8 school. It is an old church, so it's like a little maze with all these different sizes rooms. And therefore, when it was, obviously, it was not designed to be a school, so there's no playground, basketball court, and those types of things that we have in our other campuses. No current classroom space available for growth. Kindergarten actually right now are housed in the basement area, small spaces. The classrooms do not meet CDE, the 960 square feet standards, so they don't have the same standards met that other schools and other students have access to in other facilities. There's limitations to add any portables. If you take any more space from portables, then we're taking away more playground and space for the kids to be on the outdoor areas. There's, let's say, the same challenges as also limitations on middle school program. Same thing, the challenges with any K-8 school. And we'll need additional facility modifications to keep it as a K-8. So the building has a lot of facility needs. So the next steps, so this is just an initial information report to bring these concerns to your attention. And the next step would be to explore other options if the board would like for us to explore this further with additional information. We would need to consider having more parent meetings at both Houston and Cerna and other impacted schools. And we need to explore further transportation, staffing, facility, and all those detailed issues to see what the possible solutions, because there's lots to consider. But before we go further, we wanted to bring to your attention to see if the board would like to consider further exploration in this idea of how to solve the issue of the low enrollment at Houston.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lampkin. Anything else you want to add? Is there anything else you want to add to that presentation before we move on to the board?
I wanted to say that the principals have been extremely gracious in having conversations and initial conversations about this. We have been working on trying to make sure that it's been communicated as best as possible regarding this information only. It was challenging to be able to gather information without folks getting, concerned, and I totally understand, and so, but we are here at initial stages to first present to the board, and based on your direction, we will go forward depending on what the board's wishes are.
I'd like to submit to you that I don't think that message got out the way that you intended it to.
And then, yes, and then when these kinds of things are, when people are, you're talking about, it gets very emotional, as we're talking about a lot of people, and, so tonight's an opportunity to present to the board first, and we have to first get your direction before we start having community meetings.
No, I agree. It seems to me that we have two issues, and you've come forward with a possible solution, and that's what you're supposed to do, then we're going to listen. Microphone. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm used to sitting over there. Push it back up. All right. So, board discussion?
Yes, Mr. Neely. Ms. Lumpkin, we went through the attendance of Houston, people that attend school there, and do you have any current statistics that some of the students that live in the boundaries within the Houston area go to other schools?
Yes, we do.
Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, we have, we have 96 students in K-6. There are attendance area students at Houston. Let me see there. I do have the.
I have 42 kids out on IDA's K-8.
Over 40 students. They are not Houston attendance area students.
They are Houston attendance area.
They go elsewhere. Why don't they attend their own school? Do you have any statistics on that, why they don't?
Of the reasons why, parents apply for IDAs because they will sometimes they prefer a small school environment many times. Sometimes they want a K-8. Sometimes it's because they work there, they have family members there, or they attended there once and then moved out of the area and they want to come back. There's multiple reasons. But I don't specifically collect each one and have a report on to give you specific, accurate data at this time regarding why.
Another question is, you have 7th, 8th, total of 75. That's the ones that are with,
Within,
they're not, they go elsewhere? What's the 7, 8 total?
those 75, 7, 8
Yes,
are students who live within the Houston attendance area.
and they.
And they attend
they go to
Houston.
75.
So those 75,
Okay.
and then you see at Lockford, there's capacity for 127 students, and that's not counting other extra rooms that are used for other.
I would assume that most of the people that live in the Houston boundary area go to either Victor or Lockford. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
No, I'm the council.
Get your second chance, just a second. Go ahead.
One of the things that you might consider in this arrangement is maintaining Houston where it is and taking the 7th and 8th grade from Cerna and moving them to Houston, which would make a better program for the 7th and 8th grade students than they would have at Cerna because of playground space. And when you look at the middle school kids, they got to have room to move. Elementary does too, but I think that might be one alternative is all in the situation.
Dr. Tulkin, members of the board, we need to keep in mind that Cerna is a charter school, a dependent charter school. They are a dual language immersion program, which is not offered at any other school. And so to separate the 7th, 8th dual immersion charter program from the K-6 would cause some issues with the charter.
I can understand that. The only thing that I was also thinking about is here is an opportunity for those students also to be with other students who are English speaking and may be able to help them as well. I don't know from a legal standpoint whether or not.
They're not necessarily all English learners at Houston. There are a mix of English only and Spanish-speaking students that enroll in the dual immersion program. That's the genesis of the program, is to have both there, and that's part of the progression of the program, is that English only students and native Spanish speakers are together, and at the end of the 8th grade program they're at a point where they are at a proficiency level in both English and Spanish. So it's not just the English learners at CERN, there's both.
Mr. Prince.
Mr. President Neely, first time I get to say that. The slide behind us, Ms. Lampkin, shows that we have 13 6th graders currently at Houston, and then 44 7th graders and 48 8th graders. So do we anticipate next year there would be 13 7th graders, or is this something that we see? How many 7th graders do we anticipate next year?
It'd be close to 13. We'll probably, the numbers come, I would be projecting about 13 to 16 students in 6th grade. There's some, they'd be close to that.
And is there...
Sometimes you have bubbles of kids that, so in this case they have low 6th grade enrollment.
And that enrollment is not what you see between 1st and 6th grade is we have a couple in the 20s, but a lot of 12, 11, 13. Do we have an explanation why there are 44 and 48 7th and 8th graders? Yes, I think behind you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Come on up. Please.
Pull out that chair and sit down.
Grab the microphone.
The reason why I'm Allison Garrity, the principal of Victor School and Houston School. Thank you for having me.
The reason why we have a bubble at 7th and 8th grade is we combine Victor's kids into the enrollment at Houston. So when Victor 6th graders leave Victor, they go to Houston for 7th and 8th grade. So that 44 right now in 7th grade is part Houston attendance area and part Victor attendance area. So next year, we would have 24 6th graders from Victor plus the 13 from Houston.
Very good. And then this is my question.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'm just kind of curious what the combo teachers think about this. As a general rule, I'm not a big fan of combo classes, but have you got any feedback from your teachers on the difficulty that they're having or not having? And how are these teachers selected in the first place?
Well, our teachers are selected the way we do with our regular staffing and enrollment with the HR department. They follow the same process.
Okay, what I was curious about is they were forced into this combination situation.
No, they have seniority and rights to, when we do our process of staffing.
So,
So they participate in the
principal,
shuffling.
Maybe, have you heard feedback? What kind of feedback are you hearing from the combo teachers as far as, you know, they'd rather be in another situation, or they like it, or they don't like it, or they think it doesn't work, or?
I would say that combo is a way of life at Houston. So teachers have an opportunity to transfer to other schools if they're not comfortable with combination classes, but they tend to stay. That being said, if any of those teachers were given a choice to teach a single grade level near the grade level they're teaching, I'm sure they would pick that. But we try to give extra support to the combination classes with extra adult assistance in the classes. When Ms. Lampkin talked about additional funding from the district for classes, you're giving us an additional math teacher to support the 7th, 8th, and 6th grade, because it's a 5-6 combo. So that's part of the additional support she was referring to. So we do some creative things to try and relieve the stress on combo classes, but the bottom line is that there are kids that go through K-6 that are in combo classes, if not every year, almost every year. Right now, we're fortunate to only have 2 combo classes. That's rare.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Bonnie Castle, and I represent all the country schools that are east of Highway 99. So I am the Houston representative. If you don't mind, I would really like to know, would you raise your hand if you have children or you're here because of your interest in Houston? Raise your hand, please. And thank you for that. And then at the same time, may I ask the CERNA people that are here out of consideration for the CERNA population, would you please raise your hand? And thank you for that. Thank you. What I'd like to say is, first of all, we as a board really appreciate all of you being here. It is rare to have the boardroom filled, and so we know this is taking a major part of your evening, and we thank you for being here. What I would like to say to you as the representative for the Houston area is that I am here tonight to learn along with you. There are lots of questions that need to be answered with this situation, and Mrs. Garrity has been extremely helpful to me. I've been kind of following closely with Mrs. Garrity's help, and I know that you all have a lot of questions which we need to get to very, very quickly so that you can ask your questions. But I also need to tell you that the way we govern as board members is we govern on behalf of all of our nearly 30,000 students in the district. So of course I'm also very concerned for both schools, as I need to be as a board member. But as I said, we have a lot to learn. For me, I'm a champion of compromise, and personally I'm hoping that there is some type of compromise out there. That's what I hope for, but at this point, I'm waiting to learn along with you. But again, thank you so much for spending part of your evening here. The only other thing I'd like to say is the one thing that is coming up very soon, and this is out of concern for the staff at Houston as well as Cerna, and that is that in early January, district-wide, we engage in the transfer process for teachers. And so that right now, I'm sure, is on the mind of the teachers that might be involved if we were to make some kind of change. So we need to be aware too of the staff, the teachers and the overall staff from both schools are as interested, of course, as are all of you as community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Anybody else? Okay. Before yes, sir.
I'm Mr. President. I'm Roger Nathaniel. I am the Bear Creek ASB president. Just very quickly before we begin this conversation, it's very compelling to see this many people here because this shows that you still have faith in this democratic process of fixing our issues and kind of discussing it. Ms. Castle said it perfectly. Compromise, I think, is a very important thing. And again, keep in mind that these board members are governing in the best interest of 30,000 students. We have a very large district here. And for those who do not necessarily agree with maybe some of the plans that are in, think of alternate ways or other compromises rather than just not necessarily attacking, but kind of challenging this issue. So please try to come up with ways, because trust me, many minds is way better than one or maybe one. So thank you.
I'm going to let you sit up here for a while. That was great. Thank you very much. All right, before I call on the lady in the blue, you're going to be the first one I call on, and then we'll let everyone else speak too. I want to make a couple of comments here. First of all, I know that we started this with the best of intentions. I truly believe that. I wish that we had handled this a little bit differently. I think some word got out and upset some people erroneously. I mean, it was just a mistake is all. It's that old communications thing, you know, what they used to call it, telephone, where you told somebody and they told somebody and they told, and it comes out on the end quite different than what it started out as. So I think that we had a little bit of that, so we have to be careful. The way I see it here, the problem is not shutting down Houston and moving the kids and then moving Cerna over there. That's not the problem. The problem is that Houston is underutilized as a facility, and Joe Cerna is overutilized as a facility. So Mr. Talkin came up with a possible suggestion on that, and I think there are probably many possible suggestions. I'll throw one out there. I mean, just you think pie in the sky. I mean, you take Houston, you turn it into a charter, you make it an all-digital academy, and people will be wanting to go out there. So that's a possibility. You take Cerna, you get that school over on Kettleman, it belongs to the county, I think it is. You take it from the county, move Cerna over there, and put some portables out there. I mean, there are different ways that we can do this. We need to look at those ways. So we're a little premature in thinking that we're going to actually do that plan. I know you guys have done your homework. I totally believe that. You've worked on this. But what I found is that when we start opening this thing up, we start coming up with all kinds of ideas. Like Mr. Tompkins, I never thought about that. It's a possibility, you know? Just because the law says we can't do it doesn't mean we can't come up with a waiver or something, you know? There are ways that we can do this. So, I do want to say that nothing's going to happen right away. This is way too complicated. And I'm glad everyone is here because we want your input. Maybe out there is the idea that's going to fix this thing. But we do have an issue, and we've got to address it. So we want to work together to try to address that issue. And with that, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Please try to keep your comments down to about, how many people want to speak? Put up your hands. All right. Can we do it in 2 minutes apiece? 3 minutes? All right, you got me. I'll do it in 3 minutes. All right. 3 minutes apiece. How about that? Okay. You're well. She doesn't have a microphone and I do it in a big voice too, so I'll go ahead and say. Please, when you come up, state your name and... That's it. That's all we need. And you know what? Tell us if you're a parent of Houston or Cerna, okay?
Hi,
Hey.
my name is Lisa Grassi. I'm a very concerned parent of actually two Houston school students. First issue I'd like to address, you keep saying that it's just hearsay and talk. There's already been something posted on, I believe it's a teacher website, stating that there are plans for renovation of the Houston Cerna cafeteria. No dollars have been funded yet, but it's already in writing if you take a look.
Well, wait, now, this is a discussion item, so I can talk.
Yes.
It's an agenda item, so I can
You can't
talk.
take my permit.
Just because you saw it there, it's just like things you see on the internet, don't believe everything you see on the internet, you know?
And that's why we're here tonight.
So, yeah, so no, you're where the information comes from tonight. We'll give
I
you the right
believe
stuff.
Mr. Calkin's idea was awesome. We had actually discussed that last night at our parents' meeting. Me and actually Dee Dee St. John headed a parents' meeting between Houston parents last night. That was one of the things that she had mentioned. As for our enrollment, take a look at our kindergartners. There's 24. Has anybody looked at the projected growth rate of the Campo over the next 5 years? I have a child that's going to be entering Houston next year. You don't know how many kids are going to enter Houston next year until you take a look. Transportation. We know that you guys do not have money for transportation. You're trying to hire bus drivers. My special needs 4-year-old that goes to Lawrence is being bused right now in a van by a bus attendant because there's not enough bus drivers. And there's no law stating that you guys have to provide transportation for our students. My biggest concern is safety. I don't know if you guys remember or if you were on the board a few years back when the hubs came into play. Do you remember the 2 little girls that lost their life walking to Houston that morning? Because I do. Our children they can't walk down the street to school. You walk down my street, they're going to get hit by a car. I live on Woodbridge Road, which is more rural than most of our kids because some of them live in the little neighborhood across the street from the school. I've lost 5 dogs by wandering out in the street. They drive 70 miles an hour. I've been T-boned in my own driveway. I'm not going to send my kid down the street to a hub to catch a bus to go to Lodi. It's a safety concern, especially at night. By the time they get off that bus, it's dark. I work, Miss St. John takes my child to school. As for the enrollment, we can't ship all of our kids to Victor and Lockford. Add the numbers, they're not going to fit. And I've been going over some legal stuff the best I can. I've already contacted a lawyer in the Bay Area that specializes in law to get them on board to see what we have to do to get their input on how this can go or some legal aspect that we can stand on. We're here to fight for our school. We're not opposed to compromise. Compromise is awesome. Joe Cerna, those are charter kids. Their parents chose to put them in that school. They have options. We don't. You guys Houston's our district school. We don't have the option to bring them anywhere else. We don't have the option to drive them to school. A lot of us don't. We depend on other parents. We're on a first name basis with the staff, the kids, everything there. Some things I looked at is Prop 39 said that, which was enacted in 2000, is that you can use unused public school space for a charter school to share, not to take away from school kids that are already enrolled in that campus. Other things is the after-school program. A parent brought up last night, our bridge program. My kid would be walking home if there wasn't for a bridge program, over a mile to school on the frontage road of the freeway, if we did not have a bridge program. All the Lodi area schools bridge program, there's a 2-year waiting list, and you have to pay for it, is from what I gathered. I don't have all my facts 100%, but that's what I've gathered over the last month. Measure U tax dollars. We voted on Measure U for tax dollars to go to our home school, which is Houston. Not for our kids to go 20 minutes down the road to Victor or Lockford. I can't do that. Sometimes I work in Stockton. I pick my child up on lunch. I can't drive 20 minutes to Lockford to pick them up to bring them home. What about gas money? A lot of us are low income. I live paycheck to paycheck. I can't afford the gas to go get my kid every day if they're going to be in Lockford. We've grown over the last 5 years by 20%. It's only 40, but that's 20% we've grown. We don't know if we're going to grow some more. What's going to happen to those kids? Like I said, my special needs child is going to be enrolling in Houston next year. That's one more kid in kindergarten. We still have overflow from Lockford and Victor coming into Houston, so how could we be at under capacity? My son, and you guys are worried about combo classes, my son started Lodi Unified School District as an IEP student with special needs. He was in combo classes his entire career at Houston. He's now a freshman in high school, all AP classes and almost straight A's. As special needs. Combo classes don't matter, our teachers love it. And you know what, there's a teacher in the back right now that teaches a combo class. I want her to come up here and tell you guys it's not as bad as you think. We also, if you guys have, I looked it up last night, there's something called charter school.
Running out of time.
Okay, last
She
thing.
can take my 3 minutes.
Charter School Facilities Credit Enhancement Grant Program is something that Joe Cerna could look at to get a grant to find a new facility for Joe Cerna. As well, there's a vacant school over by Houston. It's called McCallum River. It's for lease. You guys could use that grant program to open a bigger school for Joe Cerna, as well as the 600, almost 700,000 you guys just spent on putting a new roof on a school that you're about to abandon.
You brought up about the numbers on that, and when you look at that chart, did you bring up the chart with Lockford and Victor on it that shows the capacity and the number of students in there now? Is there a number on it? 9. Yeah, that's the old presentation though. The new presentation's got the numbers. There's an updated version. Okay, the updated version. It says that we have, that there is a total capacity of 96. I mean, there are 96 K-6 students at Houston. All right? Now, that is minus the overflows and the IDAs, right? Okay. Now, we still have to deal with the overflows and the IDAs.
Right.
So we really can't take that out of the mix, can we?
Well, overflows and IDAs those change yearly. The IDAs is something that parents have to apply for every year. They're not guaranteed. And overflows those are also yearly. Those change. And overflows by a board policy there are guaranteed to go back to their home school after the first year of being overflowed. So those overflows will go back to their school automatically. And then the IDAs will be considered if space is available. If space is available, then they're able to take them. So it's a good thing that Houston's been able to take those students because they've had the space to take them.
Okay, so you say that'll be 96, and their Victor right now is only below capacity. Using my Common Core math, it looks like about 51 students, and you plan on taking 2 classrooms that are there that aren't included in this capacity and using those?
There's 2 rooms currently that are being used. One's used for a PE storage room. The other one is the music room, which is not a standard in the district. So not all the schools have a PE room and a music room. Those are used only when available. And often with any school, enrollment drives the use of those extra rooms. So if they have a need to add a classroom because the student enrollment at a school site, and there is, for example, a computer lab, which we don't use computer labs anymore, or a PE room, then those rooms are become a classroom because those have priority over these other rooms. It's always nice to have extra rooms for these extra things that's available, but the priority is classroom space for students.
So then you're cutting, I mean, I'm just, my opinion.
So right now,
you start to cut that kind of close. So now you got Victor at almost full capacity. And if enrollment goes up anymore, now you got another problem. And so that I got to tell you, that kind of concerns me. And so what are we going to do? Put a portable out there?
if we were to look at our current K-6 students at Houston, help me out with the numbers. If we were to take in right now, currently with the staffing that we have right now on the openings that are right now, we would be able to take the majority of the students right now without using those 2 classrooms. How many do we have left?
What if that trend holds up though, when you look at the kindergarten at 24? What if that trend holds up and all the classes are over 20?
I mean,
In kindergarten? Well, currently in kindergarten, we only have one class, so we could use that room for an AM and a PM. If that was the case, if that's another available space.
well, hold on now. I'm not a big fan of the AM, PM version of kindergarten. I know that's another subject that we need to talk about, but I don't think that's probably the best solution. And you look at this, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 below 20, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at 20 or above. So the potential there for growth. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Any other parents wish to speak? Or where's my teacher at? My combo teacher.
Over there. Come on.
You don't want to talk? That's all right. Okay,
I
next.
teach 6, 7, 8. What may I do it?
Yeah, whoever wants to come up, if you'd like to speak, please go ahead and get in line. Can I get the next speaker ready to go? Stand up against the wall. And anybody else can just get behind that. And Mr. Connexted is going to be our timekeeper, and you've got 3 minutes.
I don't have problems. Hi, I'm Erin Guthrie. I teach the 6, 7, 8 SDC class at Houston. I was typically a 7, 8, but added 2 extra 6th grader students to my class. I don't have a problem with it. I find that my 6th graders get exposed to the later curriculum a little bit earlier, so they have a better chance to grasp that knowledge. They get it a second time and a third time around. My 7th and 8th graders, when I'm teaching the 6th grade curriculum, they obviously have holes. All students have holes. They don't know everything, so then they get a second and third time around. So it helps fill that information that they don't necessarily already have.
Right.
So I personally don't have an issue with it, and as Ms. Garrity said earlier, the teachers that are teaching a combo class that don't necessarily want to teach a combo class, they have the opportunity to leave and not teach a combo class.
Right.
If they choose to stay,
They know that's the
they choose
nature
to
of
stay.
school is what you're saying.
That's the nature of school. It's
Yeah.
regardless of where you go.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Got a question for you.
Sure.
How many years have you been teaching?
This is my 5th year teaching.
Okay, and have you been doing combination classes all the
I
time?
have.
Were you kind of voluntold to start off with a combination class, or did you actually?
Obviously, your first year, you get stuck with what you get, right?
Yeah,
It was a
usually.
2-3 combo class, not an issue. My second year, I was an RSP teacher split between Sutherland and Park Lane. I started the school year with 23 students on my caseload, ended it with 55.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Dee Dee St. John, and I'm a parent, and I'm a treasurer of the PTA for Houston School.
Thank you for doing that.
I had to write my stuff down because I'll get all over the place. 204 students. That's the number of kids currently enrolled at Houston Elementary and Middle School. 204 kids that look forward to coming to school, that looks out for them. Where they feel safe and respected. 204 kids that could be torn away from a place they call a second home. Where they have gone since kindergarten, or even before, since some of the older brothers and sisters that attended our small but family-like school. By moving forward with disassembling of a Houston school, you will be breaking up not only the friendships these kids have made with one another, but the bond they have formed with the teachers and other staff. These 204 individual and loving personalities will be devastated to hear that they may never see their best friends again. Sorry, I'm really passionate about
Gotcha.
this.
That's all right. You take your time.
I say this because Victor Elementary can only take 40% of our Houston students at their elementary school, leaving the other 60% to be bused to unknown environments with kids they do not know and may not relate to. They will have to form friendships with teachers they have never met or seen before. And according to psychology and the studies of child development and changing of a child's environment can lead to deterrence in their social, intellectual, and physical development, which may prevent our bright and sponge-like students to be removed from a path that we are trying to pave for them at Houston School. I hope that the following questions and concerns will be heard and understood by the board, and that you all realize that I am not the only voice speaking this evening. I come representing my fellow parents, Houston staff, and the 204 students that I am responsible to protect and advocate for. We have been informed that our school is being considered for closure based on the fact that Houston has a low enrollment status. This issue has occurred due to the opening of Lockford Middle. This one act done by the district already caused distress for our school when it tore our 7th and 8th grades apart. Does the board not see that this is a disservice to our middle school students by forcing them to have multi-subject teachers rather than single-subject teachers? For clarification, this means that now our math teachers have to teach art, history, for example, alongside their initial subject, which takes away from the student's ability to adapt to a new teacher's and become able to move on to a high school environment at a slow pace while still being surrounded by the classmates they know and feel comfortable with. Houston is a home for many of these kids. It's where they come to express themselves and grow into positive and unique individuals. Clements, Tokay Colony, Turner Ray, how many more country schools have to be closed before it's recognized that we are more than just schools? We are a community, a unit, and a family. We look out for each other. I'd also like to bring to light the matter of Measure U. I voted for Measure U. I voted to improve my children's school. A tax that we as a community voted to pay for a year ago with misinformation that it would be used to better our school, not somebody else's school. So now the parents and guardians will be paying for a school that their kids no longer attend. I would like to assume that our board of directors have some sort of explanation as to how that it would be justified, but I cannot see any way, shape, or form how that is fair to anyone but those whose children now get to enjoy our school. We are paying taxes on, but our kids no longer attend. Is this what we can expect the next time our representative board asks us to vote on something? Expect us to believe that our kids and our kids' needs will be put above monetary motives and political propaganda? Transparency does not seem to be a quality of distrust district possesses with the information they are or may not be providing with us, is how I feel. I feel that we are being not given the truth. Number one, what is the district's reason for spending $663,889 on a new roof for Joe Cerna if this project was in the works or even a thought floating in the air? Why was item OAI-2 a one-time money consideration for Cerna/Houston School? It's on the website. You can look at it. How long has this been planned without any notification of the people this will impact the most? Are the 60% of the students who will be displaced be allowed automatic access into Cerna, which has a waiting list, mind you, and a lottery system? And we shouldn't assume that our 60% will want to be in the dual emergent program. How many Houston attendance area students are on Joe Cerna's wait list already? If Lockford and Victor are filled to capacity, what school or schools will our students attend who are new to the area? There are no other schools. There are no other schools northeast of Lodi Unified School District. If Lockford has so much space, then why was there an overflow this year to the point where Houston took on their students? What happens to the IDA's kids going to schools in Lodi? Are they going to be shipped back to their home schools? If so, where will they put them? Prior to Cerna and Lockford being a K-8, all 7th and 8th grades at both schools were placed at Houston for middle school. Why can't this happen again? Exactly what Mr. Tolkien had said. We have bus shortages. How will they bus our 204 students to other schools? Why has Joe Cerna already been talking about names for their new school? There has already been a meeting held with the parents of Joe Cerna's school from what I've understood, but yet we've had no acknowledgement of how we feel or told we have to hear through the wind. I just don't feel that it's fair, and I feel that the transparency of the district is not being fair to us. And that's all I have to say. Also, as a homeowner, my property tax will go down because, or go up because we don't have a home school. And I'm not okay with that.
Okay, you want to jump in? Anybody else want to speak, please?
Do you guys want to see our kids? Because I brought a yearbook for you guys to look at as well.
Up to. Michelle, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, anybody after Michelle, go ahead. You want to be last? Is that it?
Doesn't matter.
Go now. Anybody else? Just get behind her and stand up on the wall there. Or go first. What if you? It's okay.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is David Seca, and I'm here with bad news for everybody. I heard today there was a big fire at Joe Cerna, and 40 of the kids were killed in that fire because they got stuck in a basement. That's that could be my kid. This did not happen, but I want everybody to know that my kid, he's in kindergarten, he's being taught in the basement of Joe Cerna's, and right next to the cafeteria where all this fire hazards are, and not to mention other protection hazard materials, gas leak or whatever, who knows. That's
excuse me, please be respectful of the gentleman up. The way that we're going to make all of this work is that we're all going to talk about it. We're going to hear from everybody, and we're going to make this work some way. I'm not saying we're going to close the school. We're going to fix our situation. So please just let him talk.
This is a real concern that I have. This is my child in that basement that is being taught right now.
Sign them up for a different school.
It's
excuse me, but if the two of you would like to carry on a conversation, I'd ask you to step outside and carry on. Right now, you're talking to the board.
Yes, sorry about that. This is a real concern that I have, that my child has been taught in the basement, and I see this as a great opportunity for my kid to go to a normal school, not to a church. I love Joe Cerna. I love what it stands for. The dual language is very important for me, and so that's why I made the decision to keep my kid at Joe Cerna, and I would drive him anywhere to give him the best education, and that's why he's in that program. So this is real. This is happening now. My kid is being taught in the basement, where right next to the cafeteria there's gas. God forbid a fire, and safety is very important for me. So I don't see this as a bad thing. I see this for the people that live around Houston. You know, I heard that there was going to be open enrollment. So for truly people that live around there, I think there's going to be a chance for the kids to go there. So that's my real concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next, please. I know you.
Good evening, Mr. Neely, members of the board. Many of you know who I am. I'm actually a teacher here in the district. My name is Nancy Johnston. I'm actually not here as a teacher. I'm here as a parent. I happen to have 3 children who attend Joe Cerna Charter Academy. My children are, all 3 of them, those of you that don't know, they're triplets. They are in kindergarten, and they are part of the group that is in the basement. I'm going to request that everybody, first of all, be respectful and listen, because that's been my request of the board. I'm very interested in finding different answers, but I'm also not against moving the campus either. My children are happy there. So while everybody from Houston is very happy at their campus, I hope they understand this is not necessarily our wish to displace their students. It's to try and find the best solution for everybody. I personally like the program where it is. It is convenient for me. My children, yes, it was my choice to send my children there. My children could go to my neighborhood school, but my husband and I decided what was best for our children. And we are going to listen to what the school board has to say. We would like to see different plans, different opportunities. We would like to have more information before we decide what we're going to do with our children next year. As I understand that the Houston parents also want that, but I do request that everybody in this room consider that this is also my children's home. This is what they've known for this semester. They enjoy it. They have a great time. They've made many friends that they didn't have before. They have some friends that they had before in preschool that they followed with them, and they will have children that they will follow all the way through 8th grade if they stay with this program. I'm going to tell a story that actually Ms. Castle and I go very back in the past with. When I was a child, my parents bought a home in North Stockton. Well, when we bought our home in North Stockton, we had one elementary school. That one elementary school was Elkhorn School. And it was in no way able to meet the capacity of all the students moving into North Stockton from our parents that were choosing to purchase homes in that particular area. We were bused to the four corners of the earth, literally. When I was in the 1st grade, we had 4 campuses that we were on. We were at Elkhorn Mini School, which was our kindergarten program, which was duplexes that were converted into a school. Some children were at Elkhorn, some were at Needham. Those were our 1st graders. I was one of those 1st graders, rode a bus every day to school, rode a bus every day home. And then we had students at, actually, so 5 campuses, I apologize. Some also went to Nichols and some went to Washington. It was not our parents' choice. The district did its best to do right by us, and that's where we come up with our schools in North Stockton. Creekside was built, Oakwood was built, Wagner Holt was built. So I have faith that our board will do what is necessary to meet all the needs of all these students, but I do want to pause this idea. Ms. Castle, one of her children and I went to school during that time. Daniel was actually in my class. And we stayed very close, and as adults, 30 years later, we are all still very deeply connected because it wasn't about where we went to school. It was about the support network from our parents, our teachers, and our school board at the time that made the best decisions for everyone. So it's not about the facility, it's about everybody coming together for the reason that we're here, which is our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Anybody who has anything to add to this conversation, you can come forward, please. We are going to strictly enforce this 3 minutes now. Okay, we've got, look how many people are on the line. I will be here all night, and we want to hear you guys. Please, if what you're about to say has already been said, we get it.
My name is James Looney.
Like I told you, no decisions made tonight. So please state your name and school.
James Looney, my kids go to Houston.
Thank you.
I'm a little nervous, so I feel for the guy that his kid's being taught in a basement. All right, that's not fair, but he chooses for that kid to go there. We have our school in our neighborhood, which we all feel safe, all right? Once they change it to a charter school, it's gonna turn around and drop our value of our property down and everything else. My 6th grade kid right now that goes there, Matthew, if he goes to that charter school, if he gets picked by luck to go to that charter school, he's not gonna know Spanish. So it's gonna make it difficult for him, okay? Now, what we're here to do is come up with a compromise or a solution. Okay, well, if everybody's here for the kids, why can't we all just pull together and help build a new school? You know, he's worried about his son, I'm worried about his kid, you know? I'll take time off of work to help rebuild a school, but to turn around and spend all this money on this roof and turn around and just close it down, that's insane. That's crazy, you know? So if everybody's parents, you know, pulled together, help build a school for them, then there should be no problem. I can't turn around, now I gotta make a choice. Do I wanna go to work and support my family or quit my job to take my kid to school to give my kid a better education than I got, that don't make sense to me. But that's what I'm gonna be forced to do. I can't do that.
Okay, hey, Dan, thank you very much. Now, part of this plan, and I'm not saying this plan is going to be done, but the current CERNA facility would be reused. All right, so the money that was spent on the roof, I want to make sure that you know that's not going to be wasted at all. But we've still got a long way to go on everything else, okay?
So why can't we all just pull together and help fix it up so the kids that are there can stay there?
But there's a lot of reasons, but we need to have that discussion. What we need to do is we need to have parent groups get together. We need to get out there and listen. We need to have like town hall meetings and kind of work this thing out. So that's something that we're going to look at. We're not going to decide here tonight. There is no decision being made here tonight. But we can get the next person, please. Nice shirt.
Hi, my name is Crystal Flaherty. I'm a parent at Houston School. I'm on the PTA. I've been certified in the Parenting Partners class. All of us here just want fairness for our children. We have 204 students who are completely comfortable with their environment, and taking away our community school will affect them all in a negative way. Sorry. No, I can't read.
Take your time.
Okay, also the LCAP mentions on page 48, goal 4, the LUSD will provide outstanding customer service, and on page 95, goal 3, a positive and supportive learning environment that provide maximum opportunities for each student to succeed. If you make the decision to displace our children, how would this be following your own documents or be best for our children? Also, most schools in our district are already full, so our children will be shipped out and split up wherever you decide for us. And with all the new housing going up in Lodi, with no new schools, where do you plan on having room for any of us? I was a student at Houston School. It's a historic landmark. I love that my child goes there. He's in a combo class. He was in a K1 combo. He's now in a first-second combo, and he is doing great. He loves his teachers. He's at the top of his list. He's on Super Blue every day. He's bringing that home with him. He's just awesome. And I love that the teachers are so good with all of the kids. And all of the teachers know me and know my son already. And it just breaks my heart that you'd be taking him away from all of his friends, or, you know, we don't know where they would end up. Part of them go to Victor, okay, but the other 60%, where are they going to go? It's just, why displace our children from their own community school? I have a hard time letting anyone take it away from my kid. It's just, I don't understand any of it. The busing, it's going to be expensive. The bridge program, a lot of people depend on that work out of town. There's just so many things that, and so many questions we have, and it doesn't make sense to me at all. We just need to, band together, handle this in the best way for all of the kids, just to make sure that they're comfortable and can learn in their own environment. And just, my kid's a first grader. I have a 3-year-old. She's going to be going there too. We have lots of friends with kids that are going to be going, so please, please, just don't take this away from my kid.
Thank you very much for your input. State your name and where you're from.
I'm Stephanie Hammond, and my student goes to Joe Sterner. And I'd just like to say that anytime I've talked to any of the students or parents, our concern is also for the Houston staff and parents and students. I would like to say that even just adding classrooms to Joe Sterner campus will not solve some of the problems, the narrow stairways, the fact that if there were any first responders to come, it is a maze. So these are things that do have to be addressed. This is something that I don't think any of us parents would want to do, because seeing the other families have heartbreak is just, it's too much to take. I'm shaking for them. but our problems do need to be solved, and there is extremely high demand for this type of program. And separating the 7th and 8th graders from the rest of the students doesn't seem like it would function well, because they do work as tutors to the younger kids, and it is a progressive program. So that would kind of change the dynamic, and that's just something I'd like to throw out there since it was mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, please, state your name and where you're from.
Hello, my name is Christy McCarver, and I'm a Houston parent. I have 5 children, 3 of them in which go to Houston now, all the way from 2nd grade through 7th grade. I also have a daughter that will be coming into kindergarten as well. And so I'll be quick, but just concerns I've had that, along with everything else everyone has said, like, where would my kids go? I'm sorry. How would I be expected to get everyone to school and pick them up at the same time? And would they be separated? Like, I'm only one person. Also, the after-school program helps tremendously so that my husband and I are able to work. So that's just a huge concern with, them being separated in the after-school program. I mean, I'm all for everyone working together so that we can get this worked out, but I do have 5 children. I know some may have 1 or maybe more than I have, but it's just, ever since, we found this out, it's just, my kids are nervous, I'm nervous. We all pull together out there at Houston. I have some children that are ahead of their grade level. And then I also have some that are behind. And with the combo classes, it seems as if maybe the ones that are behind, they help each other. It just goes hand in hand. We all just kind of figure out a way as parents and as the teachers to work together to where we have that all worked out. It works for us. And just please don't take this from our children. I don't know how this will work out. Sorry, I'm so nervous. But it's life-changing, and I'm not saying that I don't want change, but we're not guaranteed that maybe if that was something that all my children would be guaranteed a spot at Joe Cerna so that we can stay there. I know that if this were to happen, it's going to separate them through Lodi and possibly up, to Rockford. I just don't know how I would be able to do that. I've had a lot of concerns, but they've already been said, but thank you for your time, and just please consider that there is a lot more than just opening up a school and closing the school. It's about the relationships with the teachers and the families and just our daily routine that we have. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Robert St. John. I believe you met my wife earlier tonight. I'm a resident of the capital 18 years. My children go to Houston. They'll be graduating out of it and moving into Lodi. You talked about numbers and growth in the area and where to put the kids and where they're going to go. Not only is Houston and the Campo area being faced with this problem, it's also being faced with the problem right now that one of our local wineries has decided to possibly move to our area, which is the largest proposed winery in the county, which is going to be about anywhere from 300 to over 600 new employees out to that area within a mile of the school, which means a lot of those families will be moving to the area to work, which means kids, which means a growth. Where are those kids going to go? How are they going to disperse them throughout our area? So I just ask that the board look at that in our area, what's happening, before they make a decision. That's all. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Lydia. I'm a parent of a Houston student, an aunt, and as well as sister. I just want to say, like Ms. Dee has said, and everyone here has said, we are a family here. Our kids are everything to that Houston school is everything to them. I have a child that's concerned right now, a 9-year-old, concerned, like, where is he going to go? He's upset. I have a 6-year-old niece confused about what's going on because they have met these people here in a Campo Houston school. My concern is education-wise. I had my brother, he was a F student once he went into Houston school, Miss Guthrie, she did the combo classes. He was an A and B student. Till this point, he is an A and B student. He's a football player now. Thanks to these teachers, and I just believe and pray that you guys would make the perfect decision for Houston to stay. And like I say, maybe combine Joe Serna, the middle school, but do not move our children from that school. That's the family. They have best friends they've been grown with since kindergarten. So please make the right choice for our school.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, Aaron Lang. I have two kids at Joe Serna Junior Charter School. First, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Secondly, I think what we all have in common here is we all want what's best for our kids, period. And so I come from it from that perspective. The other perspective I come from is I'm a product of Ray School, which was closed down when I was going there, and Turner School, which was closed down afterwards. I'm not sure what it serves as now, but I know it's not a public school any longer. So I do understand the value of small country schools and the value of that Houston school brings to the Ocampo area. I'm a resident of Ocampo myself. But the facts are these: Joe Serna School is way, way overcrowded. My son is in the kindergarten class in the basement, which is not the best situation, but the teachers are excellent. They're doing what they can. Secondly, I think it's important to reiterate that safety is a major concern of mine as a parent. That school was designed as a church. It is a maze, and God forbid we have an emergency there. I would, as an adult, I would have a hard time finding the evacuation routes, honestly. But that's not Houston's problem necessarily. That's the district's problem. And the district has the obligation in order to provide adequate facilities for all students. And I think that the one at Serna is absolutely not adequate for the needs of a K through 8 school. In addition to everything else that's been said, I think the facility as far as outdoor sports and other things that needs to happen at Serna, playtime, recess, and all that is severely lacking and needs some major attention soon. So I would really encourage the board to continue exploring options on how to improve the facilities at Joe Serna Jr. to make them much, much better than what they are. And I think there could be some creative solutions that we can come up with here that could satisfy the declining enrollment at Houston. And honestly, as a parent, we are Houston School and Joe Serna School have been thrown together like two meteors colliding in the middle of the universe. We didn't ask for this, but what we do want is what's best for our kids. And if that means that we come up with a good solution that involves both schools, fantastic. Let's look at those solutions and explore. We're on board. The last thing I want to say is we cannot forget about the dynamic of the Serna families, because there are many families as well who chose Joe Serna School because of its proximity to their homes, not necessarily because of the dual language program. So there'll be a lot of parents there as well who are saying, how am I going to get my kid down 5 miles down the road to Houston? So I think I am in support of moving Joe Serna Jr. School to a different facility. Absolutely I am. But I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And at a very informal informational meeting we had at Serna, there were probably more parents there at Serna who were thinking about how we can carpool and figure out new ways in order to solve this transportation issue. So I feel very positive that we'll be able to come to, I think there's a lot of parental support and a lot of community support to do what's best for our kids. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
I'm Mark Bregman. I have two children at Joe Serna School. I grew up out in Clements, on Clements Road and Bryant Road. I went to Clements School, Lockford, Houston, Lodi High, Delta, and UOP. I'm very shocked to hear they want to close Houston down because of the census out there, and I've heard a lot of people talk about maybe that'll be changing. My question always is about collaboration. Is there something that Joe Serna can do to help keep that campus open? I know it's a big campus. It's certainly Joe Serna could take up like 1/10 of that property. I don't know if there's any possibility to have both schools there and collaborate and more funds going into that property to improve it. I'm not sure why Houston would have to close. That doesn't really completely make sense to me. So I I think Joe Cerna, you know, we put our kids in there completely aware of the basement. I have a daughter in kindergarten right now. Completely aware that it is a maze, and if the school I think it's a big fire hazard, and I think, if it was my opinion, I'd say tear the whole thing down and start over again, but that's not the question here. But I just think that the property itself is probably inadequate to have a school. When you look at the back, you know, where the kids play, I mean, they've done a great job with what they have. There's a little turf there and a playground, but there's nowhere for these kids to play any real sports there. So, you know, finding a new location for Joe Cerna would be, I think, a great thing. There would be a lot more opportunity for the kids. But again, I don't see why Houston School would have to close in order to provide that. So I'm not sure if there's some way that both schools can get together and provide a better school for all the kids. Is that a possibility?
He goes to Houston.
What'd you tell Mom to say? Tell Mom.
That boy, I don't want to leave him.
This is Angel Carmoni was saying. Can you tell Misty what?
I don't want to close the school.
Okay. Is that all you wanted to say? Okay.
It's all right, Angel, that happens to me all the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Thank you very much. Michelle, you gonna take a turn? Not yet. Okay.
the opportunity.
Hi, good evening. My name is Marie Sachelsingloff, and I run a community in Acampo that has 173 homes that will be impacted. My daughter went to Stockton Schools, started in Rio Calaveras, was then shipped to Bush, then sent to Maxine Hong Kingston, which impacted her dramatically, where she was failing, and it wasn't until we moved to Acampo that she found a home in Houston. She was able to graduate there and move on to Lodi High, where she was a 4.0 student and got a scholarship and went to college. My son now has gone from kindergarten and is now in 6th grade. He started with a speech impairment, and from the wonderful staff there has excelled. And the fact that you guys are thinking about closing has made an impact on him. And from a parent that a child was shipped around, didn't care about, I really wish you guys would go to bed tonight and really think about the impact that it does to our community. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Good evening, President Neely and board members, Dr. Washer, Michelle Oregon, Leah President, representative of almost 1,500 teachers in this district. And I want to let all the parents out there know first that every school in this district has teachers that care about your kids. So no matter what home they find, they will have caring teachers looking after them. First, yeah, I think communication, we had some blunders. During the presentation on slide, oh good Lord, I've written over the page number. I believe it's 7, Todd.
What's the title of that?
Benefits. It was mentioned that Measure U and other facility funds could be saved if the current CERNA facility is not a K-8. Do we know what amount would be saved? And if we're using, I saw later, the next point was current CERNA facility could be used to address other board concerns. Do we know what other possible uses are being suggested and what that amount, and that's maybe a Mr. Khan question, as to how much could be saved?
Unless we save the
The immediate projects total 2.7 million. I think the facility master plan, the large need assessment that amounted to 1.5, close to 1.5 billion. CERNA's portion of that was approximately 17 million.
That's on the Measure U, what the cost would be spent for Measure U for CERNA?
The initial projects identified by the site under Measure U were about 2.7 million. Originally, those projects were distilled from the facilities master plan that was done prior, and the total district needs assessment amounted to about 1.5 billion. Of that 1.5 billion, Joe Cerna's needs amounted to about 17 million.
Okay. And can you tell us where Houston, Victor, Lockford?
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of
Well,
me right now. But,
what tier they are on the Measure U?
They're 50 sites, so
Okay.
I'm sorry, just on
They're not
some facilities there.
tier one?
But that's
Is
your question.
CERNA tier one? And maybe that's
Well, each site has a tier one.
as to how much, okay.
There were certain projects and Houston projects in
That were both.
I don't know what.
Okay. Something that we might want to look at, I see that the Houston K-8 current enrollment by grade is listed, but we don't have the Lockford and Victor enrollments on the presentation. I have heard from our Lockford teachers that the 7-8, and maybe Ms. Lamkin has those numbers, seem to be very large, and the teachers are concerned about facilities to house the 7th and 8th grade if they were to be moved over to Lockford. So maybe as we get more information, we can break down each of those grade levels for each of the sites and see what numbers by grade we're talking about moving. To Ms. Castle's question, our site shuffle takes place this week. Grade level subjects shuffle should be starting. The transfer first posting will occur January 16th. So if we're making any moves in staffing, those teachers would, if this happens this year, they would miss out on the first round if they wanted to change sites. I know that that has been a concern with staff if there is change to occur sooner than later within this next following school year. A point we'd like to make is the difference between a combo class, which is 2 grade levels that the teacher is responsible for teaching, versus an SDC special ed multi-age classroom, which usually is a 2-year also grade span, and we heard tonight that out there it's a 3-year grade span. We do note that the collaboration part, Houston teachers do miss out on that, and some of the trends and finding out the new and different ways of doing things. They may not have a counterpart to collaborate with. I believe you've heard, as I've heard tonight, that collaboration is very important. And Ms. Cervantes from CERNA maybe has done her job too well with the waiting list and the increased enrollment and the number of students that want to participate in that great program. I think you've heard from plenty of parents tonight that they do believe in family, and you know, my motto has always been, we are one, we are all Lodi unified. I'm sure from what you've worked on this year that with careful consideration, and I like the idea of town halls where some of these parents can suggest solutions. I have not personally seen the basement of Joe Cerna, but I've heard about it, and I've heard from teachers. And your teachers are making the best out of many situations that they know could be better. And they choose to stay where they are at times because of their community and the support that they get from their parents. And, you know, my family is my family from my home side. I've worked with those families for, 20 years. And those teachers out there and those community members, that is their family. So if you are taking what next, I really think that we should be doing some town halls to make sure that we have input from all stakeholders, including all these parents, but also your teachers at each location, because they live and breathe what the advantages and deficits are for each school site. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, Dr. Wilson, what you need from us is some guidance on where to go from here.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to start talking, and I'm going to turn it over to other board members. I'm going to give my opinion on this. You guys have probably seen me fooling with the computer up here. I've been listening, but I've also been trying to find out some information. And I'll be honest. Looking at the California School Dashboard, and the one that just came out, and in English Language Arts performance in 3 through 8 and mathematics 3 through 8, Houston is actually 3 pies, and the district is 2, which means that they're doing well. So they're above the district average on that. You know, as I said before, we've got 2 issues. It's Houston's underutilized, Cerna is overutilized. Houston's problem is not critical. I'm sorry, it brings to mind that joke about Houston, we have a problem. Houston doesn't have that big of a problem. We've got a problem, and we've got a problem at Cerna. So I really appreciate this being brought to our attention, because I'll be going out there probably Thursday and do a tour. I know I've been out there before, but I haven't seen that basement. So I went out there and looked at the roof, but I want to see the basement this time. I'm going to give you my guidance on it. I say I don't want to move forward on closing Houston. I don't think that's something that we need to investigate. That's my opinion. I'm sure there'll be people that disagree with me on that. I do think that we have a problem with Cerna that needs to be dealt with quickly as possible, and that we have some issues with Houston that we need to boost that enrollment. I'm concerned that that if we go with this plan, that there may be some growth. We're already at 24 in the grade school, and then we end up with a problem. I remember the issue that we had out at Catnip. We moved all those portables out there, we built that school, and now it's nothing. So I don't think we need to do anything on the Houston side of this right now. Cerna, yes, we need to do something about that. So my vote is to move forward, looking at things, but without, I mean, already it's leaked out. We've got some people upset about closing Houston. I don't see it. I don't agree with closing it. So that's mine. Who wants to go next?
I really hate to have to agree with President Neely, but for the most part, I think he's right. Definitely, we have to get kids out of the basement, if that's where they are. And we have to find a place that is much more conducive to education. I don't think Cerna School probably is a great place. I mean, we don't have the facilities for kids to play, the athletics. So that's, I think, our first priority. I don't know what to do about Houston. You can obviously hear the passion of the parents that, you know, they like their school, they like their teachers, the staff, and I definitely get that. Somehow we need to come up with a solution that will allow those people to remain, but to utilize it for the rest of the district also. I'm open to suggestions.
Sir. Thank you. Yeah, this is part of that 99% that we agree on, and happily. I always try to kind of list things in my head, and I agree that there are problems at Cerna. I have been in the basement of Cerna. I went there, I think, for back to school night, and one of the parents says, "Hi, happy to meet you. Come here." So, yeah, the basement, I agree with you, it's pretty bad. But we need to find solutions for Cerna, but I don't believe in, at this time, making it the problem of Houston. I think it's a real thing when you're talking about a school. I believe in neighborhood schools. They are a community center. They have their own, you use family a lot. They have their own culture, their own feel, and everybody, it's good for the kids when they have that structure where they stay in each grade year after year. I mean, I think back, I was going into the 6th grade and they changed our school attendance boundary, and I had to go to a different school as a 6th grader. And, you know, while kids adapt and all that, it was fine, but it was just like, that, you know what, that's traumatic. And we're talking about doing that to multiple kids. I don't agree, I don't like that. So I would say Houston, no, but Cerna, we need to find another solution for them, because it's a fine school, and Cerna does deserve a little bit better than what they've got. So
Mr. Nava? Yes, Mr. Montes, how long have you been there with that basement? Because I was there about 5 years ago and I went into the basement and there was good teaching going on there.
Is it okay for
you? You bet.
Okay.
So, President Neely, members of the board, Superintendent Washer, sorry my voice is hoarse, but I'll just take a few minutes. 20 years ago, this district did not have space. They also did not have money. And so 20 years ago, a creative solution was to attain this property that is currently Joe Cerna Charter School. And Lodi Unified was able to creatively use it. And it was when the Charter School Act first went into effect. So they could accommodate students in the way that they creatively have. And maybe that was the only thing that was available 20 years ago. But it doesn't mean it's right. So we're here now 20 years later, and that the basement has been used off and on for having classes in there. But I again say it doesn't mean it's right. Our teachers, our students, our parents are so flexible, so supportive. We made over 2,000 tamales in these last few days, even with the uncertainty of this conversation. It goes back to every student that is part of Joe Cerna is part of Lodi Unified. They all live in Lodi Unified's attendance area. All of Houston students live in Lodi's attendance area. We have always been a dependent charter school. And so that if 15 years ago the school board did not have the knowledge or understanding of the sense of belonging that these students are to you, I come to you letting you know that every child that attends Joe Cerna is requires the same attention as every child that goes to Vinewood, as every child that goes to Heritage, every child that goes to Houston. There are students, and the staff, they're all Lodi Unified employees. so that, again, thinking creatively is where we need to go. And our teachers are outstanding. I will never take anything away from them. I'm sure if I had books and said, let's teach under a tree, they'd probably do an outstanding job. The basement just is not right. And that's where we are now. But let's think flexibly and creatively. That's what I always look at, is how can we think outside of the box? You know, it could be that maybe both schools could coexist, that both programs are offered. I want to believe that there may be families at Houston that would be interested in having their children have 2 languages and develop proficiency in 2 languages. And that could be an opportunity for more students. And I'm very open-minded, so that's where I want to be continued, you know, part of the conversations. I've heard town hall meetings, that could be a path to go. How do we think outside of the box to provide the best for the children of Lodi Unified? They're all Lodi Unified, Houston students and Cerna students.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. Another question. You know, the problem we have, Houston, you're intact, I think. I mean, I hate, we've had problems before. I've been on this board where we moved Turner and then we closed Tokay Colony and that type of thing, and it wasn't a very pleasant situation. I see more parents involved in this community of Houston than I've ever seen before at other schools, okay? Now, I am for exploring the possibility of having Cerna move to a location that is safe for them. It cringes me that we have Measure U and Measure U on states on one that we're going to have safe schools for all students. And we passed, most of you people in Houston voted for the bond and the measure, and so did I. And our goal was to get these schools up to par. Cerna School is ancient. It was a church before, and I mean, it's one of the oldest, probably oldest school, except Needham, I think, that has been in existence in Lodi Unified. We need to find a solution for Cerna, and I'm all for it to explore possibilities of doing whatever it takes to get a quality school going and continue with Cerna and continue with the Houston and improving their enrollment. I think that would be a key thing. Again, you know, I'm anti combination classes, but I heard some good things here as far as that community working together and getting the maximum learning that they can do with a combination class, whereas opposed to another public school would be a little bit different, because you do have people coming from different areas and different communities, as opposed to the Houston community being very close-knit. So I am for not closing that at this point. I explore the possibility of Cerna getting, again, I'm being redundant, a new place where they can have all the facilities that they need to have for K through 8 and explore a little athletics in the program, okay? Thank you.
You got your direction. Anybody else like to speak? Thank you.
I have to tell all of you, everybody in this audience, you touched our hearts. So thank you, everyone. I mean, you made a difference. I do not wish to close another country school. I've only been in the country for 25 years out in the Clements area. That makes me still a newcomer. But I do know very much how dear country schools are to country people. So I have no wish to close Houston. And I do like the idea I'm hearing from my colleagues about Maria Cervantes and Joe Cerna Junior School are, as is Houston, exemplary schools. It pains me as well, this whole basement issue. that needs to be corrected. And I do like the ideas I'm hearing kind of thrown around. You know, Houston has a giant field. I don't know if that's an idea there, but no, we're not closed. I do not wish to close Houston, but I would really like to see Joe Cerna made much safer, much better.
I agree with almost everything that the board has said. The one thing that I would say is I would ask the district to look at all options. There's no question that something must happen with Cerna. But I think we just can't look at, well, we could close off and change one school and we'll put Cerna there and spread the kids around. I would like to, as a board member, see at least 6 or 7 different options that you have looked at and being able to say, if we do this, this is going to cause a problem. If we do this, this won't cause quite as much problem. If we do this, this might help, but it'd be a problem here. If we come up with a number of different options and you say, well, board, this is our best choice, then that gives something for the board to look at and to examine and make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Ms. Briggs.
Mr. President, I'd like to join and thank all my colleagues for their thoughtful consideration in this matter. I'd like to thank everyone for coming here and speaking tonight. Ms. Castle is exactly right. You have touched our hearts. And I'd like to thank staff for the hard work and research that was put into this matter. The fact still remains, we have one school that has 500, capacity for 500, and 300 of it is vacant. We have another school that's at 375 and has 11 vacancies and really is over vacant. If you take the 60 kids out of the basement, you figure that that isn't right. So if we could put up the slide that shows the Houston K school current enrollment by grade. I'd like to just talk for just a second about the enrollment that we have currently in Houston. By my numbers, we have 92 students that are in 7th and 8th grade, and we have, that would leave 101 students that were K through 6. So if we were to create an option possibly where the 7th and 8th graders were to go to one of our middle schools, such as Lodi Middle School, or Millswood, which has a band program, like the other schools, no longer run through a K through 8, that would free up 100 students, that would free up 100 spaces. If you took that 100, the 103 that are remaining at Houston, the K through 6, add that to the 375 at Cerna, you're still well below the 500 capacity. So you could keep both programs. Also, you've moved Cerna to an area that has a larger land area that would be available for expansion were we to put portables or such. I know that's not the district plan. I've told a million people that we weren't going to build any more portables, but you touched our hearts, and in this instance, we would make an exception. So I think by looking at moving the 7th and 8th graders into a middle school program, like we're doing across the district, that would keep the smaller children from having to walk on streets and be transported long distances. Also, those 7th and 8th graders will be going to Lodi High School, I imagine, and will have to be transported into the middle of the district anyway. So we're just moving it ahead 2 years. I know this isn't ideal. I know this is change. Change is never ideal, but this would be an opportunity for both programs to be available at Houston. So that's my 2 cents.
What about the gangs at Millswood? I don't want my kid going to school with gangs.
Okay, well, it's just something, we're not saying that this is the solution, okay? But it is another possibility, and that's what we have to do. And when we come up with more possibilities, you hopefully will be the first to know when we have something to share with you. It won't be like we share things or things are shared before we're ready to. You have your guidance? Okay. I want to thank our staff for all the work that you put into this. And this was an idea, okay, and you brought it forward, and we appreciate that. We got to keep that going, all right? So don't take this like a slam on you or anything like that. It was an innovative idea of moving things around. This one didn't work, but the next one might. You never stop. I think it took Thomas Edison, what, 1,000 sometimes before he invented the electric light bulb. All of them were failures, and he kept trying. So that's what we're doing. All right.
I'm good.
All right.
Mr. President Neely and members of the board, I do want to ask Mr. Khan to clarify one thing that has been said a couple times tonight that is not correct, and that is that this was already pre-planned a long time ago. That is not true.
Right.
So Mr. Khan could explain that one item.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. There was mention that the Cerna Houston kitchen project represented advanced planning for either Cerna Houston, or Houston. That item came off the board's one-time money list. I think the board will recall that we, over 2 board meetings separated by 1 month, we discussed possibilities. We also discussed the possibilities internally. Whether Cerna stays at Cerna or whatever mix the board eventually decides, if Cerna does stay at Cerna, then a different kitchen facility would be absolutely necessary there. Houston is also in need of kitchen renovations and possibly upgrades. That request came from our nutrition services director only in terms of potential use of the one-time money. It had no policy or program implications.
Thank you. Anything else?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Got a question. My main concern is that we were supposed to be told, we supposedly got letters in the mail about this whole thing starting to happen.
Oh, wait, hold on. You say, no, we did not send out.
That's not correct.
We did not send out letters.
Okay, because that's where I'm trying, where are we losing the communication? That's what I'm concerned about.
No, you,
Hector Alejandres, I have a student at Houston School.
Okay.
I mean, obviously something's been happening because we have a bunch of pros and cons for Cerna.
Oh, this was developed by our staff, and they were just brainstorming some pros and cons.
But right here, basically what I see is everything that benefits Cerna. What would it do for Houston School? It'll benefit because we're going to get more students in there. What it'll do for Cerna, it'll get the kids out of the basement. I understand that. I have sympathy for the kids that are in the basement, but at the same time, it's you guys have time to prep, but we haven't had any time to prep. Basically, we found out about a week and a half ago.
There's no decision being made. And
no, I understand.
As a matter of fact, what was put forward is that we don't want to.
No, I understand.
The board has said we don't want to close Houston.
The only thing I'm worried about is trying to get a little bit more information, where it's a little bit more open policy so we can see it.
Right.
Not to where it's like surprise. Last minute. Basically, what we're getting, all the information that I've collected is probably within the last week and a half.
Okay.
Everybody else, it seems like Service had a meeting about what, 3 weeks ago?
I don't know.
The only reason I know that is because I have friends that go to their kids go to Joe Cerna, and they told me that they had their meeting about a month ago, about 3 weeks ago, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when it started opening for me. But then eventually it got word out to Houston School. So we're trying to find out what's going on now. So now we're trying to juggle things around, trying to figure these things out at the last minute. That's what we're.
You guys were here at the meeting in November.
Last month.
Yeah, last month. So you knew that there was some talk about it. Yeah. So
You said it was.
we'll try to do better on that communication too. That's one of the things that we need to work on.
Okay.
So we'll try to do better on that.
So basically, where can we get our information from? Do we go to Ms. Garrity, go pick it up from her, or try to look on the website, or where do we go?
Well, right now, Ms. Garrity is going to be your point of contact for it.
Okay.
All right.
No,
I don't expect you're going to hear a lot more on it, except for how we can better utilize those facilities. That's all.
No, I mean, for Joe Cerna, I mean, if town hall meetings what they need, I'm the first one to sign the petition that they need a new school. They need a new facility. They need somewhere to take their kids.
Like I said, and we all agree on that. The problem is, that when, next year, when we hit full funding, we'll be funded at 50th in the nation, like I was talking about. And money is the issue. It's always the issue with California schools. So we're gonna try to do the best job we can for you and all of our kids with the funds and the assets that we have available. That's all we can do.
Okay, I appreciate it. I mean, the main thing I'm trying to do is just keep the kids from Houston school. Because right now, what it seems is like, it's okay to separate the kids at Houston school, but let's keep all Joe Cernas together.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of. We're trying to place the K through 8, I mean the 7th and 8th graders in another school, and I mean, it's just things to think about, that's it.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to take. Yes, sir.
Again, I know, as you see, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Washer, I know you see a young student up here trying to give commentary on an issue, but coming from a family who's put education at a priority, it's I feel like the need to say this. With me being on various councils and leadership positions, I can assure one thing, that this board will find an equitable solution. Again, I know that they will take the best interest of our complete district, 30,000 plus students. Your voices are being heard, and I really appreciate the words and the courage and the time that you took out of your personal day to come here and speak for your children, because your children are the future of our city and of our community. Ms. Lampkin, I would like to commend you on your reports. This is something that I feel is extremely beneficial coming from a student standpoint, because I can come and report this to our school and we can see what we can do for you guys if there's any possible alternative methods that we can find. Maybe we can present it to the board at a previous meeting. We can shoot a couple emails around. But again, an equitable is the word that comes to mind. A equal solution will be found. I understand your concern in the back, Mr. Alejandro. I understand your concern about Joe Cerna being kind of favored in this sense, but I think we need to look at it from both perspectives. I think the basement issue and the safety issue doesn't necessarily supersede, but has caught a very concerning eye from the board and from our superintendent. So I just wanted to make that very clear that an equitable solution will be reached. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, I am closing this item on the agenda. You've got your...
One more. My name is Felipe. This is
Yes, sir.
I represent Lodi High School, and I had a question concerning all this topic with Houston and Joe Cerna. I believe the real question here is, where is safety? If you're going to have students in a basement, or you're going to have students walking down the side of the road with cars going 70 miles per hour. I believe what we should focus on right now is the safety with our children. If we have 30,000 plus students at this district, where are we putting safety? If we're going to mainly prioritize if we're going to close down a school, or are we going to just be blaming another school because of a basement issue? I believe that safety should be number one, fixing the problem. And I believe right now the problem is having students in a basement. If, God forbid, there's a fire, you're going to have little kids scrambling trying to go upstairs. We don't want that. I'm not a parent, but parents don't want that, to see kids scrambling upstairs. Parents don't want to see students walking down the side of the road with cars going 80 plus miles. I believe we should put safety first and figure out the problems where they're at. And we have two of them. Kids walking down the street, cars going really fast, and students in a basement.
Thank you very much, Felipe. Well thought out statement. Appreciate that very much. With that, now I'm going to close this item on the agenda. We are going to take a 5-minute recess. Now wait, before you leave, there's going to be a lot of talking, so I would ask you to take your conversations outside, because we got a full agenda left to cover on this. So I'm moving it early, so if you would, move your conversations outside, we'll move on. Thank you guys very much for coming. Wait on Mr. Freitas. Mr. Freitas comes in, maybe we give him a round of applause. We're not going to the calendar. We're going to do, okay. All right, let's call this meeting of the Board of Education back into session. I have a request to another little adjustment to our agenda, and that would be to move the bond issue up to right now, because we have a couple of gentlemen joining us from the Bay Area that they really like Lodi, but would actually like more on tonight. So,
And with that, I'll make a motion that we adjust the time schedule and move that agenda item up.
Second. And the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, let's move forward. Can we bring that up on,
It's up.
all right. Mr. Khan, you're on.
Thank you, President Neely. The matter before the board in OAI2 has no financial implication to the board or the district per se. It is a refunding of existing bonds that were issued in 2011. The action item calls for a refunding of $21,400,000 of Measure K's 2011 general obligation refunding bonds. The purpose is all signs point to rising interest rates over the last 3 years. Close to 3 years. The Fed has embarked on an interest rate increase regime. They've raised interest rates 4 times. Market pundits believe that next week we'll see the same, another quarter-point increase in the federal funds rate. This may be the last time to reduce interest rates on this tranche of bonds. All the savings would go to the taxpayers of the district. There is no implication to the board. If the board has any questions about this, I'd like to thank Mr. John Isom of Isom Advisors. He is the board's financial advisor. Mr. Bruce Kearns from Stifel Nicholas. Mr. Kearns and Stifel are the board's underwriters. Ms. Marilyn Jacobs sends her regrets, but she is the bond counsel for the district. She was unable to attend. But if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Anybody have any questions about the bond issue?
Well, anytime you can save money for it.
All right. Other questions?
I move that we approve.
Second. We've got a motion and a second. Let's get any student comment on this. None? Okay. Public comment. All right. Let's just get this thing underway. And where do you call for the vote on this new system?
I do it.
Oh, you do.
President Neely,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
could we thank the 2 gentlemen for sitting through hours of our earlier meeting?
Just so you know,
Appreciate that.
There's some nice hotels in Lodi, so
Wine and Roses, I hear, is really nice.
Well, it was a very interesting experience. We learned a lot.
Does it make you want to run for school board?
No.
But it definitely made up your mind.
All right. Student vote.
Aye.
Calling for the board vote. And it passes.
once you're here, you can't leave.
7-0. All right. Gentlemen, you have a safe trip back. Thank you very much for coming all this way.
Thank you.
All right. Is our report from Lodi News here? We just saved the taxpayers of this district, what, 800,000?
Oh, I wish, not quite.
Not quite? How much?
716,930.
716,000.
716,930.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, can we go back with the regular agenda now?
We are. We're there.
All right.
Look at the tried and true sitting up there.
What are they doing?
You notice we're all on.
They've all got something. If it's nobody.
I would move approval of the
Well,
Common
wait,
Board of Education.
Well,
Second.
okay, we got a motion and a second, but I've got a comment on here. Yeah, it'll come under discussion, no problem. I would ask the board, and we've got a session on the 27th of February, it's a study session. I made some plans that day for several days after that. And it involves airline tickets on that day. So I would ask the board to move that to the 13th. Now that's a study session. And I guess that was open because we had board meetings on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays. So if we could move that to the 13th, I would greatly appreciate that accommodation.
Mr. Neely, can I ask staff who are going to be doing that study session, if that's okay? That would be you. LCAP, it's going to be LCAP.
And if the board doesn't show up?
Or you can do it on the 26th, I don't care, any day other than the 27th on.
The 13th is fine? Yep. 13th is fine.
And
Okay.
Mr. Neely, since we're seeking
Please.
the board's approval,
Yeah.
the meeting on April 17th, I have a conflict. Would it be possible to do that the following week, the 24th?
Where are you?
I've got no problem.
17th, April 24th.
April 17th.
17th goes to the 24th. April. Oh, the February one went from the 27th to the 13th. 13th of February. Anybody else?
My birthday is.
We don't care about you. We don't care. Anybody else? Okay. Can I get you to modify
Absolutely.
your
Move
motion
the
with those corrections?
changes. Absolutely, I move approval of those changes.
Can I get you to redo your second of that?
Changes.
The changes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, there we go. Are we legal?
Yep.
All right.
Close enough for government work.
All right, can we call for the student vote?
Aye.
Student vote, call for the vote.
Sound like a bunch of sailors. Aye,
You're pretty funny now that you're not the president, huh?
Hey, I lost my thing. Shoot, where am I?
Oh, that's way for you.
Are we voting?
Aye. Aye.
Can we do it?
I lost the
Oh,
whole
you're-
thing.
you're
I got, here?
No, you're right.
Would it be possible for a calendar to be sent with us with the
Okay,
corrections?
at this end,
Thank you so very much.
Yeah,
The changes.
the right side is voting, has the left side finished voting yet?
We're just waiting on one.
So you say. Have faith. Well, I do in you.
Motion passes 7-0. All right. Next item up on the agenda is the California School Boards Association nomination of delegate assembly. There is a vacancy on the delegate assembly, and we are looking for one person. My term does not expire until next year. Do I have any volunteers to participate in the delegate assembly? It's a highly paid position, and you get to travel a lot.
It's to be nominated, it's to participate in the election.
Yeah, right. This is a nomination for that open position. Okay, I don't have anybody volunteering for that, so there will be no nomination from Lodi Unified. Moving on. Next item up, we have several subcommittees that we need to talk about here real quick. First one being the Board Audit Review Committee. We currently have 3 people on that, Mr. Heberly, Mr. Talkin, and Mr. Knackstad. Are all 3 of you willing to fulfill that again?
yes.
All right, we'll take that and go with it. The next one's Lodi City 2x2. I'm on there, Mr. Heberly. I want to continue to be on that.
So do I.
So that's solved. Next one's the Stockton City 2x2. We have Mr. Nava, Mr. Knackstad.
Yes.
Yes.
Settles that, we'll move on. The next one is the San Joaquin County 2x2. Mr. Freitas, are you willing to continue?
I am.
Mrs. Castle, I'm going to ask a favor of you. I would like that position. Would you be willing to take it, let me take it?
Certainly.
Then put me down for that one. Thank you, Ms. Castle. City of Stockton's Parks and Recs, we have one appointee.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Nava, thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Nava. Energy Conservation Committee, Ms. Castle, Mr. Freitas, and Dr. Talkin. All 3 of you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was, all right, so we got Mr. Talkin one more time then. All right, Joe Cerna Charter, Advisory Committee. I believe this is wrong, I believe it's Ms. Castle is on there.
No, she was.
There's Mr. Heberly.
No, Ron was on.
Okay.
I wish to be on.
Ron, would you be okay with that? if we
Yes,
discuss it?
ma'am, you may do.
Okay,
Thank
there we
you.
go.
I appreciate it, Bonnie, thank you.
The Legislative Advocacy Committee is Mr. Freitas, Mr. Everly, myself. I want to stay.
Awesome.
Yes, please.
Okay, so that's done. And that finishes that. Superintendent's report, please.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, in the interest of time, I'm willing to postpone my report till next time, other than to say that our 2 student reps are awesome.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you.
And don't forget Crappy.
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 Oh, I do want to thank Leah for sponsoring Crab Feed, helping us with Got Kids, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leah.
That's a big deal. And CSEA is going to do that too, right?
They helped with casino night.
All right. Thank you, CSEA.
And LPPA also help, they're always supportive.
LPPA, geez.
And London.
We got good
what
folks,
did they
I
do?
tell you.
What's that mean?
All right.
Mr. President.
Take it all the
Yes, sir.
baskets.
Hold on, let's bring it back here. Move on.
I move at this time to move the student reports up, since we are past the 9:30 hour.
Let's do it. Student reports. Oh. Guess I should have done that.
Second and yeah.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Done. Go.
President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I will try to get through this as quickly as possible as we can.
Absolutely not. Take your time.
You got time for you. You guys are what we're here about. Take your
Okay,
time.
so previously when I reported, which was quite some time ago, I reported that we were going to have a club takeover week to kind of highlight our unique trait of diversity and celebrate all clubs on campus. And so this was extremely well received, not by our student population, but by our community and our staff as well. And just an example of the Spirit Day would be like Public Service Day, so Red Cross, Key Club, just things like that, Rotary, Interact Club. It's just, this is one thing that our ASB Vice President, you're going to be hearing about him later on in the report, that he's doing. He's being very progressive with the clubs, and he's doing a lot of new things, and we're very proud of that. The Office of Civil Rights did visit Lodi Unified, as the board is well aware of. I was able to speak with the lawyers. It was a great privilege to kind of give a student's perspective on Bear Creek campus and Bear Creek life, and they were extremely impressed by our school, and so that's something that we are very proud of on our campus. Bear Creek is actually having a crab feed. Dr. Washer, again, we ask that you put this on the district website and all other media outlets. It is January 27th. Tickets are $50, and we would greatly appreciate the board's presence there, and superintendent's presence there, and Mr. Khan, you as well. So that's something and it's the main source of our student government budget and our funding, and we are highly dependent on this one event. So that's just something to keep in mind as you plan for after the holiday break. Another thing that we did was the police exercise that happened at Bear Creek. That was a very large operation, a very secretive operation. Due to me being on the instructional leadership team and other councils such as that, I was able to kind of understand the process from an administrative standpoint. And we can tell after speaking with a few officers that they're a lot more comfortable working on our campus in the event of an emergency. So that is something that we are extremely happy about. Bear Creek's nationally renowned journalism program will be issuing their first ever magazine highlighting mental health illnesses regarding students and education. This is something that goes along with one of our student government values of community outreach and kind of spreading the word of Bear Creek and kind of negating that, not necessarily negating, but decimating that that stigma that Bear Creek has had about being just a campus full of misfits and things like that. So we're doing a lot of progressive things on our campus, that being one. We had our first winter formal in many years, and that was extremely well received. Everybody had a great time. We had no issues with safety whatsoever, and it was always a pleasant experience. We are kind of addressing the visual and performing arts kind of lack of publicity in the media. There might be a VAPA takeover week, just as our club takeover week, and that's something that we're very proud of. Our theater program put on a production that I reported on previously. It was the Laramie Project, and it was about a murder of a homosexual male due to its due to his beliefs, and that was something that was considered very controversial in the state of Kansas, where we had one of the Baptist church actually attack our theater program, and that's something that is that we're proud of because we're pushing the boundaries and we're making people feel uncomfortable, and that uncomfortability is something that we perceive as progressiveness and challenging those orthodox beliefs. So that, as well as PBIS, we had a PBIS visit. PBIS, for everybody knows what it is, but if anybody didn't know, it's a positive behavior intervention support. So we had a meeting with our culture club, Mr. Melandro, Dr. Dosti, Ms. Vetica, and Mr. Enrique Avalos, PBIS coordinator, were all in attendance. And this is something that we are really paying close attention to and kind of really emphasizing, is trying to promote a safer learning environment for our students and changing the approach to discipline as a whole, because we have been identified as having underrepresented minorities and students and things like that of certain ethnicities, and so we're very proud of that. We are working extremely hard to, again, create an equitable environment for all. Julian Bernardo, our ASB Vice President, will be forming a club council, so it's kind of a board of clubs, and this will help him make decisions regarding international rallies, something that Bear Creek is known for putting on. You will receive more information about that at a later time, but we would invite all board members and all superintendents to attend to this meeting and this rally. Julian Bernardo, again, I speak of him a lot, my ASB Vice President. He received a perfect score on his ACT, a perfect 36. And yeah, so he will be applying to schools such as Stanford and Harvard, so this is something that our district provided him with the opportunity to learn and the resources, and he fully utilized them, so it's just showing a direct reflection on what our district can produce. Our speech and debate program is doing very, very well. There are multiple qualification stages for state, and we are very proud of that. And also, Bear Creek football team, although our record was not that great, we were the 8 Mile Bowl champions. We did defeat McNair. We had many league awards, co-defensive back, offensive lineman of the year, kicker, and punter of the year, as well as various first and second team selections were all from Bear Creek. There are too many to name, and we're trying to get out of here in a timely manner. Upcoming rallies, Winterfest basketball game and Winterfest rally. Winterfest is chosen by the teachers on campus and highlights our students' accomplishments and things like that as a nomination process. There will be a court and things like that, and so that concludes my report. If there's any questions, I'll be willing to take them.
Yeah, Raj, don't anybody label you misfits. That's underestimating. No high school should be labeled as a misfit. So you guys are doing a great job at Bear Creek and any other high school. So it kind of gets me off the track as far as somebody labeling you that. By the way, my granddaughter has always said, I told you that you were doing a great job as a board representative from Bear Creek, and he says, I knew it all the time.
Thank you. That's much appreciated, Mr. Mount.
Russ, thank you very much. Felipe?
President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. From the past time since we met, like 2 months ago, probably. So we had the Haunted House fundraiser. To conclude, we raised up to $1,200, and it's going to support student government. We had a canned food drive, and Interact Club hosted that. And when I ran into the office, there were like a ton of boxes in the office. It was all pulled to a corner. It was getting ready for the holiday season because there are families that don't have food, and as a school helping out to the community, it's probably one of the biggest things. For our acts of kindness, our TRL hosted this year's toy drive for kids, and the toys are going out to kids that are in neglected families. Our student government helped out the Salvation Army this year with their annual bell ringing for donations. Performances won by our drama club was a game of tiaras. It was honestly a really funny play, I guess, if you wanted to say. It was really, the 2 hours was well worth it. Academic, we had 3 students committed to universities. It was Alyssa, Riley, and Gianni. Universities ranging from Oregon, Reno, and then Liberty University. We had a great football season overall. Volleyball, they had 15-15. Water polo, 16-14. Girls water polo was 13-9. And the Lodi High girls cross country team added 15 consecutive league titles. Peter Vogt placed second in sections at cross country meet. And winter sports have started, so please expect a lot of good reviews about that. And our upcoming events would be our Jingle Ball Dance this Friday after the boys' basketball game, and Spirit Week and Winterfest are to be announced. And as well, Winterfest court is decided upon teachers, just based on students' attendance, I guess, and the academics in class. And that's all I have to report tonight.
Thank you very much, and thank you, gentlemen, both, for your comments tonight. They were quite timely and well thought out. You guys make us very proud. I'm going to ask you to do something, too. I want you to pick out 2, 3 items from the things that you've been talking about. I want you to write those up and submit that to Dr. Washer. Dr. Washer, maybe we can use that as some information on our Facebook page and possibly even our website, maybe a corner on that. And if we do that with all 4 of our schools, get that information out there, or we can also do it with some of our other schools as well. We get that information out there and build up that Facebook page. Thank you guys very much. If you'd like to head on out at this time, please do so. If you'd like to stay around and have fun with us, by all means, you're welcome. All right. Moving on, comments from the public. Are there any comments from the public? See? We will move on to the next item. Consent agenda A. Can you believe we're already at consent agenda A? Gee, we are just moving right along.
You're about to be impeached.
How long did you last? All right, anyone from the board want something pulled from consent agenda A? None. Public?
Yes.
Have a good break.
Yes, ma'am.
A5.
A5.
Can you go?
Okay, A5 is pulled. Anything else?
Chairman, I move we approve the rest of routine agenda A.
Second. Motion and second. Student vote.
Aye.
We have 1 aye. All right. Calling for the board vote. Oh. Stay with me, Lynn. Got to stay up with me. It's a fast-moving train. Mike says no. Here we are, really slow. Consent agenda A passes 7-0. Item A5. Michelle?
You gotta do a voice vote on this
You have to
one.
do it because I was kicked out, but you could eliminate.
On the last one or this coming up?
On A5.
Coming up one.
A5, got it.
Okay, so A5 is sorry. Okay. Regarding board policy in particular, 6163.4, the student use of technology, both the exhibit and the revised policy.
Give me that number again.
6163. Oh, that one's crossed out.
Policy or exhibit?
Both.
Okay.
And 4040, both the employee use of technology. There is a deletion for 4040 under the rule, of which I'd like to speak.
The entire policy is proposed to be deleted.
Correct. I'd just like to bring to the attention that it doesn't look like on number 12A, software not related to the mission of Lodi Unified School District will not be installed on district equipment. How would that approval of software, does it have to go through technology? I don't see that necessarily addressed if teachers are using programs or apps in particular on their iPads. So just one of those, maybe when we get to the rule of 40/40 later, because I believe that what we have is the new exhibit and policy. The next one was on page 3, item 6. The pace of the program can be controlled by the teacher or learner unless pacing is an essential element of the instructional strategy. Very important that teachers don't lose the ability in the technology pieces to advance their students or hold them back. And I don't see that addressed in the new policy. Just as we talk about technology, some things that have come up on one of the deletions, it talks about the cell phone use, not to use your personal cell phone. I know Dr. Washer and I had a conversation about this last week, this week, recently. And the concern that teachers have is, I'm being asked to use my personal device in an emergency. So within their REMS notifications for emergencies, they're supposed to call or text in from their cell phone in a lockdown situation to the designated person. However, we're not making that's not outlined in our policy as to when necessarily teachers are supposed to use their cell phone. We also know that, well, I've left my third arm over there, but we all carry around our device as if it was another appendage. As a teacher, I've been on the playground. Golly, Johnny, we need the wheelchair out here. Not all schools have walkie-talkies for those emergencies. So I think we need to outline some kind of policy specifically with teacher cell phone use. I know there's also, and I have talked to Ms. Katowski about adding for our next TAC meeting, the use of our cell phones and devices and things like apps. My kids are all graduated now from Lodi High, but at each time they had teachers that required them to use devices. We have one site, Kristen McAuliffe, that had a pilot program with a bring your own device, and that's kind of has remained the same. It hasn't migrated to other campuses. Yet we still have teachers that are using that, but we don't have a uniform policy throughout the high schools, throughout secondary. So I think with that and this new policy, maybe looking at direction to outline something for teachers and coaches and those of us who may need them on the playground or in the parking lot or for school use. I know the legal ramifications of calling a parent on my cell phone at home. I no longer have a landline, so I call parents from my cell phone. And there is a legal factor in that, but we need to recognize that that's what many of us are using and the only time that we're able to reach some parents because they work during the day. Right. So if maybe we can look forward to direction to a policy to add some bits about cell phone, but I think that would have to go through maybe advisory first for recommendations and finding out what sites are using and what those high schools maybe need to change because the policies are different from teacher to teacher, site to site.
All right, hold on just a second, don't go away, please. Yes, sir.
President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer, Business Services would welcome the opportunity to pull both the technology policies and their accompanying rules and exhibits and place them in front of the Tech Advisory Committee for the input.
Okay.
But we do see the benefit of some of these things that are clearly changed and outlined for the better, and I understand legally, so maybe as we could amend over time and not keep it from going forward. That's not our intention, my intention.
Your intention is Not to
It's
stop.
not to stop it, just that we need to maybe amend going
This
forward.
is something we need to look at. You got it.
Mr. President, move to approve.
Second.
Student vote.
Aye.
Calling on the board vote. We gotta do it. Oh, it's gotta be a verbal, right? Okay. All right, starting on this end.
Aye.
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 You got it.
They're all.
All right.
Yes.
Will everybody hit yes?
Hit yes on it.
No, it says student discipline.
We're on student discipline on the screen.
Yeah, it says
Oh,
student
sorry,
discipline.
sorry. Okay, sorry.
Student discipline?
Okay, so okay, consent agenda B, student matters, can I go on that now?
All right, I move approval of student
Second.
item B, 1 through B.
Motion and a second.
7.
Board discussion. Calling on the vote.
I think we
already voted. Passes 7-0.
When you get a motion in a second, could you please repeat who moves in the second?
Mr. Talkin, motion, Mr. Nava, second, and I will do that.
It's those guys.
I'm sorry, I got time to do that. I feel the pressure from Mr. Freitas down there. All right, next on the agenda. Action item 1, first interim.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I'd like to thank Ms. Mernon, our Senior Director of Budgets, and her team for producing another positive certification, first interim for the board to consider. Without further ado, Ms. Mernon.
Could you open the presentation, please?
Which PDF would you like me to open?
The one that says first interim presentation? Yes. Sorry. Hi, I'm Mr. President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. The presentation for the first interim, our current approved budget revenues are $334 million. We have the majority of that funding, 79% of that is LCFF funds. And it does reflect our revised income calculations from the county with our FICMAT calculator. Our approved expenditures are currently at $338 million. I apologize, there's an additional one in there. I noticed that this evening when I was looking at that. So $338,909,195. The approved expenditures include carryover amounts from prior years, so this does reflect the close of our 16-17 fiscal. So the carryovers for any applicable categories have been included in the presentation. You can see that our salaries and benefits are currently at 79% of our budgeted expenditures, and these numbers do not reflect the agreements of your non-represented groups or the 17-18 LPPA, as those have not been board approved yet. This is a slide for our 3-year projection of our unrestricted ending fund balance. This does not include restricted funds. So the 17-18 ending fund balance is currently projected at the $38,369,000. And our ending fund balance currently is reflecting increase over the next 3 years, and that is primarily because there is anticipated COLAs included in those 2 out years, and as well as the unrepresented employee groups. Those salary raises have not been reflected, so keep that in mind. The unrestricted ending fund balance reserve assignments are as listed, totaling $37,774,000. If you add in, there's a $595,000 stores and prepaid expense that is not included. If you add that in there, you would come up to the 38 million ending fund balance that you saw on the previous slide. Our current restricted ending fund balance is at 1.9, almost $2 million as of first interim. Enrollment history, you can see we're pretty much following the same pattern that the district has. This is a 5-year history of enrollment. We are increased over prior year at this time, and the increased ADA has been reflected in our first interim revenue counts. We have adjusted for that additional ADA. So some interim summaries for you. STRS and PERS will increase approximately $10.7 million over the next, this year and the next two. I'm sorry, through 2021. Carryover has been indicated in expenditures, and that does create a deficit spending situation where our expenses are more than our current year revenue. Our 17-18 one-time funds have been received and are reflected in the first interim numbers that you see. And our special education reserve of $2 million for unforeseen special ed costs has been reduced to date $263,565. Employee compensation settlements for some bargaining groups are not reflected in the 17-18 first interim report, and enrollment has been increased. We go to the governor's budget in January, and we will reflect those new estimates for our out years during our second interim report to you. Do you have any questions? Sorry, I was fast.
And we appreciate that.
Sorry.
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you, Angel. Great report. I move we approve.
Second?
I'm sorry. Angel, great report. Just slides 2 and 3. Just like you said, we are making $334 million and we're spending $339 million.
Yes.
So we are deficit spending to the tune of $5 million.
We are currently, yes.
And when is that going to change?
Never.
That's a good question. PERS and STRS are definitely causing a big hit, and there's a lot of our increases in our special education area. So.
Okay, well, I mean, that $5 million adds up pretty quickly. It's got to come out of one-time money, I imagine, to balance it, which is our reserves. And 7 years, that means our reserves down to 0. And that's pretty fast, right? So I am concerned. I'm very concerned that we're deficit spending. And Mr. Khan, maybe you can alleviate my concerns.
I would certainly admit my biggest concern at this point is the special ed program, but I believe Dr. Washer and her team are addressing that. The board may recall the special ed study session in October. I think that will go a long ways towards hopefully reducing the number of cases if that's what is necessary, and then applying the additional support that will remain in terms of the maintenance of effort to other areas as well.
But our special ed reserve is around $2 million. So that still leaves $3 million unaccounted for of this $5 million deficit spending.
Yeah, a portion of, as Ms. Murray said, does also include the categorical carryovers that weren't originally included in expenditures.
Okay, well, I look forward to a strategy that we're not deficit spending, because obviously dollars mismanaged are dollars that we're not spending in the classroom, and that is very high priority with me. And you know, thank you very much for the report, and I look forward to riding the ship on this. And with that, I think we have a motion and a second.
Okay, Mr. Nava, motion, Mr. Talkin, seconded. Any other comments? Student vote. Aye. Calling for the board vote.
Thank you.
There it is. Thank you. Thank you. Passes 7. Angel, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I appreciate you waiting around for us. Okay. 02, the item O, it's been done. I2, resolution for bonds is done, completed. 3 is resolution 27 concerning the hiring of short-term classified employees.
Mr. President, this is a resolution that we have before you this evening because there has not been consistent procedures in this area to this point in the school year, so we're bringing this resolution forward to bring consistency to everyone in this area, and this is the paying of people to take tickets, work in the concessions at the athletic events to high schools. They've been just, different high schools have been doing different things over the years, and so we had a meeting recently to try to bring consistency to this, so we're going to bring this resolution forward, and you'll see this coming forward at the beginning of each year thereafter.
Right. Thank you, Mr. McKilligan. Discussion from the board. No discussion.
Move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Talkin, for the motion. Second. Second from Mr. Knackstead. Student vote? Aye. Calling for the board vote.
So we just want to ask the public what they think.
Public, I'm going through these. If you'd like to comment, speak up. Too late. All right, moving on to the next item. Again, we're up with Mr. McKilligan.
Mr. President, this is an item to bring forward the improvement to the management salary schedule. This is one of the non-represented groups, not the other groups have settled. This action improves the management salary schedule by 2% in 16-17 and another 2% in 17-18, similar to the other groups.
Thank you, Mr. McKilligan. Board discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve.
Second. Motion from Mr. Nava, second from Dr. Talkin. Dr. Washer, do students vote on salary issues?
Sure.
Calling for that student vote.
Aye.
Aye. Calling for the board vote. Mr. McKilligan, you're up again. Oh, that item passes 7-0, by the way. Mr. McKilligan.
Yes, Mr. President, this is another item. This is the other non-represented group. Same thing, increases the confidential salary schedule by 2% in 16-17 and another 2% in 17-18.
Thank you, Mr. McKilligan.
Chairman, I move we approve.
Second. Mr. Nava has motioned, Dr. Talkin has seconded. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, calling for the student vote.
Aye.
Aye. Calling for the board vote. Well, look, you just jump in there anytime you want to. All right, Mr. McKilligan, you're up again.
Okay, this item is an approval of the amendment to the superintendent's employment contract. Same thing, adds 2% for the 16-17 year and 2% for the 17-18, similar to the other groups.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve.
Second, Mr. President. Yes, sir.
I will be probably taking a little bit different path on this. I have a philosophical problem with the structure of the increases about the salary gap. I want to state, like I did last time, is that this is not a personal statement about the superintendent. This is about the position, and the position only. I want that very clear. I just think that that salary gap gets wider and wider, and I think it needs to be restructured in a different way. So I will be voting no. That's my explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Headley, for your comment. Any other comments? Comments from the public? None? All right, calling for, we have a motion from Mr. Nava, second from Mr. Tonkin, calling for the student vote.
Aye.
We have an aye there, calling on the board vote. Passes 6-1. Mr. McKilligan, I think this is your last time.
This is, I think, maybe one more.
One more, that's right, you do right below that.
This is another one of those provisional intern permit situations, so we need to bring this forward for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. McKilligan. Board discussion? Seeing no discussion.
Move approval.
Second. I've got a motion from Dr. Talkin, a second from Mr. Heberly.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion from the public, seeing none. Student vote?
Aye.
Board vote? Motion passes 7-0. Personnel matters, Mr. McGilligan.
Mr. Neely, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Mr. President.
Wait for that. Mr. Freitas.
I was looking at this list, and there seems to be a Donnell Vedica on this list that since retiring. So I moved to strike that and make her stay.
I have a motion on the floor to strike Mrs. Vedica's retirement.
But since Donnell Vedica has served the district very, very well, and I can speak from personal account, it makes a damn fine juror, I would move to approve this matter.
Second. For your motion. Got a motion from Mr. Freitas, a second from Mr. Knob, I believe that was, right?
That's correct, sir.
And Ms. Vedica, I just want to say that everyone gets parole sooner or later, right?
There you'll get a roast.
The smile says it all.
The first of very many congratulations.
Will this pass 4-3?
Any other discussion? All right, public discussion. All right, student vote? Aye. Calling for the board vote. Oh, you're right.
I take it back. Take that.
Brilliant, very good. All right.
That's why we like you guys here.
Mr. Haverly, I still need a vote?
Oh, yeah, that's.
Motion passes 7-0. Communications, student representative is done. Employee group representatives.
Seeing none.
Really?
Is this a 3-minute time limit?
Yes.
That's Michelle. She gets all the time she wants.
Well, I'm going to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because we will not see you until the next year. I want to remind you that teachers will be off celebrating with their families. However, your secondary teachers will be working on their grades because they are due the 26th and 27th of Christmas vacation, so they will have a little work time in between there, and our hats are off to them for that commitment to make sure that those go out in a timely manner. We do want to recognize one of our teachers, Denise Dover Hall from Oakwood School, who has been collecting pajamas, PJs, for students. And I welcome any of you, if you're out shopping in the next week, if you see pajamas on sale and feel so inclined, Denise would welcome those donations for Oakwood School and the students that she will be distributing to, and any sizes are welcome. So have a Merry Christmas. Thank you for this opportunity quickly to speak.
Thank you, Michelle. And
1 minute.
Deborah?
I'm gonna go 1 minute. Here we go. Finish.
I can say Merry Christmas.
I haven't been talking very much, John. So, good evening, President Neely, members of the board, and Superintendent Washer. I'm Deborah Ladwick, president of the CSEA group here. And because it is the last meeting of the year, I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I wanted to thank President Heberly for his service. I totally agree with what Mr. Neely said earlier. That was a really nice tribute. I think Mr. Heberly has worked really hard over the last 7 years. He has not changed from the campaign time when he and I had a long discussion in the parking lot to today. He is the same person. He is voting the same way, and that's something to be commended. So thank you all very much for your service, and I look forward to a great break and a wonderful new year.
Thank you, Deborah. John?
I'll be faster than her.
I also wanted to say Merry Christmas, and I also have appreciated Ron since he was joined the board. We've had conversations, and I was a counselor of his sons when they came to Tokyo High School, and so I've always felt like we've kind of had a similar, need to put the kids first and basically, advocate for them. So I've appreciated that, and I just wanted to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, John.
Okay, comments from board members.
Mr. President,
Ms. Freitas.
one of our moms at Claremont High, Jenny Room, was the tragic victim of violence over the weekend. She was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting, an innocent bystander. 3 of her children attend Claremont, so our thoughts and prayers go out to her family and her 4th child who hasn't started school, and all of our family at Claremont. Also, Mr. Heberly, congratulations on the year well led. Mr. Neely, we look forward to the year and what you're going to do, and congratulations to all the officers being selected. And to everyone, a very happy new year and a healthy and safe holiday season.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas.
Oh, yes, thank you. And also Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the whole group of the Lodi Unified family, no matter what your position and job title and all that. We really appreciate it. You do serve our children well. And obviously to the families and children of our district, Merry Christmas. It's a great time of year.
Yes. Yeah, I have 2 things. One is that I attended the Custodial Services Annual Awards along with Mr. Neely on December 6th. I just want to mention it was really nice to see some of our unsung heroes being recognized, and I thought it was particularly nice to see a lot of the principals who came and stood with them and to be recognized also. And I also wanted to make sure I thank Mr. Hebley for his support and his guidance during my freshman year on the board. I know Ron is a fireman by trade, but he has a soul of a teacher.
Thank you. That's a very good compliment.
Thank you, Felipe, for staying with us, and I really appreciated the comments you made during our very long discussion with our great audience, and so thank you very much. And yes, thank you, Ron. You have been the exemplary president, and we appreciate, I know everything that goes into conducting these meetings. You've done that very well, so thank you. And then I have, before I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, this will be quick and interesting, I promise, okay? So, all right, so I'm going to speak on behalf of our high school counselors. And I just have to take you back for just a moment to the year 2006, which just happens to be the year I was elected to the board, so that was a long time ago. And it was what I call the glory years. And what I mean by that is if you think about 2006, what you were all doing then, that was the economy booming. For Lodi Unified, we were building schools right and left. The enrollment was increasing. And it was, as one of the first things I got to do as a newly elected board member was a groundbreaking, which I thought, they'll just invite me, I'll sit in the audience, Oh no, you show up, you got a gold shovel that they had spray painted with gold, and then you got to take the dirt, throw it over your shoulder, and symbolically the beginning of a brand new school. Now, I mentioned this in regards to counseling. At that time, in 2006, at our high schools, the ratio of counselor to students, John, were you with us in 2006?
Oh, yes,
okay, 1 counselor to every 350 students, and there were 6 counselors at each high school. Okay, and now again, I ask you to think with me. Do you all remember what was called sophomore counseling? So if you had kids in high school, the counselors in 2006 and leading up to that for quite a few years, it would invite the parents, the child, in to sit with the counselor, and you talk about how your child had done the freshman year, if there were any problems, we're going to fix it, get in there right away when we can, and basically plan the rest of their high school, a master plan, career, tech, college, whatever. I remember thinking, and this was for my oldest child, who did very well, she'll want me to say that, but it was comforting to know that the counselors were a team with you, and that they would be watching your child as you were watching your child. It was immensely comforting. Now, fast forward to this year, John, the ratio now, correct me if I'm wrong, the ratio of counselors to students is 1 to every 500 plus. Is it like 520, 530?
It depends on the site. McNair's far better off, but at the other sites it runs probably anywhere from 1 to 520, and I've heard as high as 590 when the population was really high for one at Lodi. I think it's down around under 580 right now. But
580.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And needless to say, and we all know this, there is no more sophomore counseling. There has not been for several years, because that would be impossible for the counselor to cover all of that any longer. So you probably know where I'm going with this. And in addition to, trying to meet with as many students as possible, the counselors are involved in every aspect of the school in one way or another. What it would take, and this is what I'm hoping you'll agree with me on this, what it would take to get that ratio down to 400 to 1, which, as I understand it, John, would put you in a much better position to get back to those sophomore counseling days and actually meet with each one of your students occasionally, hopefully more often than that, would be to add only one more counselor to Lodi High, Tokay High, and Bear Creek, and get that ratio down to 400 to 1. And it truly would impact every child in a far different way than is possible now. We have excellent counselors, but it's impossible to meet with all those children, absolutely. So I'm asking you, I would like to be able to ask Dr. Washer to make this a top priority for the LCAP funding, to add these 3 additional high school counselors for the next school year. Basically gives our counselors the ability to once again counsel all the children, and truly for the benefit of us all. What do you think?
Thank you. Wish we could talk about it, but it's
push forward.
Non-agenda. But ask Dr. Washington, you got that on there, will come up as a future agenda item and maybe a report item first. Mr. Nava?
Yes, I just want to thank Ron. You're already relaxed. I remember when I was sitting back, kicked back and everything. You don't care if this meeting lasts till 12, I know. Anyway, again, Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy Holidays and all that good stuff, and enjoy the vacation. I know we're talking to nobody here except the administrators, which are there. I didn't mean it that way, Michelle. I'm talking about the people that are in the trenches, and you all are also. But here again, I want to say to put a bug into Mr. Neely's ear about ending these board meetings no later than 9:30. I know there are some circumstances like today that we had, these kinds of crisis which extends the meeting, but after 9:30, Mr. Neely, I become a little bit counterproductive. Right now, we're here 5 hours.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not agenda, so I can't talk about it. Go ahead. Mr. Stockton?
I just want to take the opportunity to compliment both student reps who have made an outstanding conversation to everyone. You were fantastic. And I want to also compliment Ron Heberly for the wonderful job he did as president of the board this year, and say Merry Christmas to everyone and have a great new year. Happy or not, have a great one.
Thank you, Mr. Stockton. I want to make mine really quick. I want to thank my colleagues for their confidence in me tonight. I appreciate that. Ron, I've said everything up there. I do have to tell you a quick little funny about that, though. Valerie contacted me and said, hey, would you be willing to do Mr. Heberly's recognition? And I said, I don't like it. So, again, thank you for everything that you did. And I agree, you look kind of relaxed. I feel pretty relaxed. All right. Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm going to be calling our employee group reps so we can sit down and talk a little bit. May get you before the break comes up, so maybe looking forward to the next couple of days. Thank you, everybody, for staying on this. I know stuff we're going to get onto the reports real quick, and that's all I've got.
Mr. Neely,
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if we postpone that California dashboard for Lodi. Is it imperative that we hear it today?
You know, I'm agreeing with you. So this is our next item. Let me get the superintendent. Did you want to say anything else?
No, thank you.
You're on that thing? Okay. All right, then here's what, let's take a look at this. And, you know, I feel bad because I got people that have stayed here to do this. But is there,
Can you do it in 27 seconds?
can you do it quickly?
Yes.
How quickly?
How quickly do you need it?
You got the idea. All right, let's
You know,
get,
the problem with this, it's got a lot of colors, and I'm kind of colorblind. My gosh, I can't follow those through. This would be a great study session on this dashboard, because, I mean, it would tell me exactly, I'm a percentage guy. What percent of these people are doing, and I see a number, I say, oh, we're doing good, or we're not doing good. But these colors, I don't know, I opened it up and I said, oh my gosh. So,
here's the thing. If we do table this, I've got a majority of the vote that says they want to table it. We will have this at the beginning of the next agenda, so you guys won't have to stay late. Okay? It'll be the first thing on the agenda. Can we do that, Dr. Washington?
Mr. Neely, personally, I think it would be better to table it. This is what we're all about. This is the most important conversation we have, is how our students are achieving and the progress we're making. I would hate to not give it the attention it deserves.
Got it. That makes sense to me.
Mr. President, I think it's better that we have more frequent, shorter meetings than less frequent, long meetings.
We'll talk about that. I'll agree with that.
Motion to table?
I got a motion tabled, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, now let's get to my presentation. I move that we table it today. Do I have a second on that? All in favor? Aye. There we go. That's done. All right. Let's finish up here real quick. Any future agenda items? Board discussion, board advisory committee reports, none. Future agenda items, none. We are adjourned.